I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Who's going to break Lasnick's world title?
Can these two go?
Ewan's going to do it, his first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Hello everybody and welcome to Hockenheim for round 3 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship here in 2024. It is public vote week and out of the 3 options, Hockenheim was chosen and will be racing here for the first time in 5 years. The 2019 German Grand Prix was the last time we raced around this circuit for 67 laps. Martin Cosby winning in 1 hour and 25, just a few tenths ahead of Jurne Simoncic on that day. It's also been 3 years since we've been to this country at all in the World Championship. Nürburgring was the last 2 editions of this Grand Prix, and now it's time we move back to the Hockenheim all over again. Same commentary duo though, myself, Ewan O'Leary, Cam Rodger alongside me as well. Looking forward to this one, Cam. A return for the first time in a while, and one that the drivers I think could particularly complain about because the majority of them voted for this very circuit.
Yep, they certainly did, and it was almost 50%, 48.7% of the vote is what got it, and it beat Baku and Montreal. So if you wanted Baku or Montreal, then yeah, have some words in Discord afterwards with those who picked this one. But certainly it is a very fun track indeed. We've had some interesting races in Academy and Pro earlier, so to be honest, I can't wait really to see how the WC drivers are going to do, because from practice I can say the tyre strategy is completely open. The wing levels that people are running going to be completely open as well. I think we're really going to have a variety of a race today.
Yeah, well, let's chat about that in a couple of moments' time. But before we go any further, we'll have a look at the championship standings. I know it's early, or we'll have a look at the schedule, before we get there. Singapore coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Really looking forward to that for the first time in a while. Then back to familiar ground with the British Grand Prix. Imola after that. Turkey, Spa, USA and Japan to come before July and August, just the start of August, when we end the 2024 season, a little bit earlier than we have done in previous seasons. Let's now go to those championship standings. I was getting overexcited about them. I know I promised not to do this. It's only round 2, but I am, because it's so very close and so very odd. Jan Granqvist, having not won either of the 2 races so far, is leading the way. His 2nd and 4th place finish is enough to beat Jake Dennehan, who is just 1 point behind. Omar Gorgi, who won 2 weeks ago, is next, tied with Manuel Biancalula in 33 points, 3rd place. Then Yannick Bock, who is in the top 5, despite having a fairly quiet season so far. Janis Braxok is 6th ahead of Dennis Jordan, who was outside the top 10 a couple of weeks ago. Michi Hoyer with 2 9th place finishes so far is 8th ahead of Jurne Simoncic, who did not have a good Australian Grand Prix. Then Alex Siebel, who didn't, largely because of Jurne Simoncic, actually. Let's chat a little bit about what's happened since the Australian Grand Prix, though, Cam, because 4 drivers have got positional penalties, adding up to 10 positions taken away from those 4 drivers.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one in the stewards room. So yeah, the drivers need to obviously be a little bit more well behaved, and I definitely think that it's obviously, it shows how competitive the championship is, where we get these incidents being protested after the race, and I think it's just opening the doors to it being a very interesting championship, as you say. Drivers leading the championship, and in the case of Granqvist, hasn't won a race, so it's really going to be quite an interesting middle part of this season. But as the down to the protests themselves, I mean, they were pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. Drivers being pushed off, etc. Let's hope we get a bit of a cleaner race today.
Yeah, let's hope so. And what are we going to see today? It's the Hockenheim ring for a lot of laps, 67 laps around here, but a short lap, as we've already noted, and so it shouldn't be too long of a race, although maybe not as short as Australia, which was a real fast race and over very quickly, almost before it started, but thoroughly enjoyable one. Let's hope that we see something similar here, because as you say, we've got some wide diversity in setups and strategies as well. I'm not entirely sure how much they could have learned from the Academy or Pro races so far, or if they could have learned anything at all in terms of what they're going to take forward, because this season the strategies have generally been quite up in the air.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they need to take into account is the race is obviously 10 laps longer. And with the way that the tyres are working this season, you can basically do whatever you want. So you can go quite long on the hards, but then doing 2 sets of soft in that same time is basically just as quick. So you then really have to work out what you want to do. Depends on the track position as well. We've seen Bianca Lilla especially. He's really been trying those 2 stops. But then the 3 stops have been working in the case of Dennehan and his teammate McGorgy. But then even though they're on a 3-stop, they still use 2 sets of hard tyres in that as well. So they're pushing on the hard tyres. So it is completely open, and it just depends where you're on the track, where you see a gap behind you, and ultimately, I guess, what tyre you're most comfortable with.
As we see in qualifying right now, 1 minute 13.4 is enough for provisional pole position for Ewan Simoncic. He is now down in 9th in the standings, having not scored any points at the Australian Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. Now, if you have been watching the Formula SimRacing World Championship for a very long time, you'll note that that is a particularly notable moment, really, in the series. For example, last season, he didn't finish below 6th position in 2023, which is remarkable. Wasn't here at 2022, so I'm not going to count that one, but you have to go a very long way back to find a 0-point score from him. In fact, you have to go back to 2020 to find a race where he started and didn't score any points. That was the Dutch Grand Prix nearly 4 years ago. That just shows you what a remarkable race the Australian Grand Prix was, and you wonder whether that's sort of the kick-start moment for him in this season. There always is one with Ewan Simoncic. He's never the championship leader from start to finish, or very rarely anyway. And maybe this is the moment where he decides, right, I've had the opening moments of the season now. I need to get on with this. And this qualifying session is proving that maybe he is just kicking on now at round 3.
Oh, definitely. When it's a season like this, where it's a bit up and down, drivers all over the place, generally he's the one to come out on top, being the most consistent over the season. But he has really struggled, and of course he got a penalty last race as well. 4 places for that contact with Siebel and Dennehan down at turn 3, I should say. So definitely needs to be careful with that one to not get too many more. And talking of being careful, is Bianca Lilla there making some mistakes on that second lap as he had to abort in the end. Here's your race winner from last time, improving on first and second sector.
Yeah, Owen McGorgy taking his first ever Formula SimRacing World Championship win. Oh, out of the final corner, sliding all over the place there. Is it going to be an improvement? Nevertheless, it is. And it's 6th position, a quarter of a second behind Ewan Simoncic, as we're on board with Michi Hoyer, the last race winner in the German Grand Prix. This was the 3rd of his remarkable start to the 2021 season. If you remember that, where he won 3 races in a row and he was leading the 4th one before crashing out at Zandvoort. He's only 14th in qualifying here, though, and that is not where he would like to be. Very much in the midfield. Very much in the midfield for Ferrari too, which has been the story of their season so far.
But look how close these lap times are, though. Half a second for the top 17 drivers. So you blink and you miss it, and you'll be going a few rows down the grid. But definitely got to be watching out for that, not making any sort of mistakes, and even up towards the front. There's a 10th here, 10th there, and you're gaining multiple positions. So Desrod out to the final corner with a personal best in that middle sector across the line. Can he jump up? Yes, he can, to 8th place, though. Still a little bit of a way off.
Yeah, it is. And not many tenths of a second, but it is a little bit in terms of positions. We do have a new driver on the grid here today, by the way. Matthew Williams returning to the Formula SimRacing World Championship for Optiminal, who both crashed out of the Australian Grand Prix, if you remember. Well, didn't both crash out, but were both involved in a crash at the Australian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. Sergio Fletcher, a DNF at the end of that. Ruben Machete only able to get to 18th position by the end. So Optiminal will look to become the 11th and final maybe team to score points in the World Championship this season, after getting off to a good start in terms of speed actually at Australia, but luck wasn't on their side in those final few corners.
Just unfortunately having some contact with Michi Hoyer, who did end up getting a penalty for that one. And another team who have been slowly working themselves out this season. They're doing very well in the Academy and the Pro Championship, and that is Go Team Racing. Of course, all of the Royal Blue drivers moving over there and really just opening up their Formula division at Go Team Racing, who are very, very strong in the world of endurance racing. And look at this, because Prosciutto, purple in that first sector, and of course going pretty good in that middle sector as well. Let's see what he can do out the final corner.
Yeah, an ever-improving team, by the way. Reigning LMP2 champions in the Virtual Endurance Championship on rFactor 2, for example. Cosmo Pisuto goes over the line with the open-wheel pedigree that he has, getting to 11th position. What about Yannick Bock, who was runner-up at the Australian Grand Prix, still looking for his first race win in the World Championship? It is an improvement for Bock, and he goes third. Jone Simoncic back to the pit lane. He'll go out with a minute and a half to go. He will be pretty much last to cross the line, I would imagine. Not quite, by the looks of it, actually. Sander Callis is going to try and beat him to that accolade, but Jone Simoncic is going to give himself just that one more chance, as is pretty much everybody, actually, in the session. Maybe not Matthew Williams, though, who goes over the line possibly for the final time, and he is 5th. He's still pushing on here. Maybe he'll continue. No, that'll be it for him at best 5th in qualifying.
Yeah, some interesting run plans going on here, but I think it's just because it's such a short track. Some of the drivers may be trying to sneak in a 4th lap there, and Simoncic backing out just to give himself that one final opportunity, as here's Mitch Hoyer not improving in the first couple of sectors. I don't think he'll be jumping up unless he does miracles in the stadium section, and he actually does. So he goes up there into P12. So he didn't go actually fast in any sector, but he obviously just was ever so slightly off his personal best in each one.
That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah, it must have been he was so inconsistent on his previous laps.
I guess so, yeah.
Must have made a big mistake.
Yeah, I guess so, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. But there you go, Richie Hoyer up to 12th for now. That's only pushing Alex Siebel further and further down, by the way. 13th place for him is quite a long way for a driver of his calibre, as Jukka-Pekka Laulu now tries to improve his position for Super Venturi out of the final corner in 18th. Currently, it is going to be still 18th, despite an improvement to 1 minute 14.0, just about. Sander Callis is done for the day. So is Yannick Bock. The top 2 still out there on laps at the moment. Dennis Jordan, the only driver in the top 10, improving for now. Manuel Biancalilla goes quicker in the middle sector.
He certainly does, and this is a driver who is putting in a lot of practice. There was a bit of an update to the track about a week ago, and he wasn't overly happy because he'd already done a week's worth of practice, and he was really trying to get himself up to speed, as he is really going for this championship, and he's looking so strong across the line. Only 4th place, but that is still very strong, just less than 1.5 tenths off.
Jan Grankvist now probably the only driver who can push off Jone Simoncic, because Jake Dennehan won't be over the line for the championship leader, and he stays in 6th. Owen McGorgy not improving actually out there on the circuit at the moment. Both Ferraris have gone fastest faster than their previous bests in the first sector, but no better in the middle. What about at the end of the lap for Alex Siebel? It's 11th for him. What about Jone Simoncic? He looks to be cruising, safe in the knowledge he's got pole position for the German Grand Prix. Owen McGorgy, the last round winner, goes over the line. He won't improve either. That'll be qualifying. Jone Simoncic will be on pole.
He certainly will, and he is going to be loving that one, that's for sure. After the struggle to the start of the season, putting it on pole, and also by a 10th of a second, just shows the strength that he's still got.
It's Jone Simoncic's 30th pole position in the history of the Formula SimRacing World Championship, and he very much needed it as well. 1/10 of a second ahead of last year's runner-up in the championship, Jake Dennehan. Yannick Bock, who was runner-up 2 weeks ago, is third ahead of Manuel Biancalilla, who joined him on the podium. Matthew Williams in his 2024 debut in the top 5 ahead of championship leader Jan Grankvist, and then last round's winner Owen McGorgy was 7th ahead of Jonas Braxtock, who's quite low down for him actually, normally better in qualifying than that for Braxtock. Dennis Jordan and Ruben Machede round out the top 10. Double top 10 for Optimino, which is a really good performance from them. Scuderia Ferrari eSports team couldn't quite manage it because Alex Siebel was 11th. Cosmo Pisuto alongside him, with Michi Hoyer and Giordano Valeriano on the next row. 2 drivers who got positions dropped from the previous race, post-race penalties hitting them, unfortunately. Sander Callis and Matthias Ster on row 8 ahead of Martin Mergley for Brabham and Jukka-Pekka Laulu for Super Venturi. It's Kostas van Fucus and Philip Pushka on the 10th row of the grid before George Zalagianis and Stavros Midzadis rounding out the 22 drivers on the grid here today. Unfortunately, Netrex both on the back 2 rows of the grid here for this one. But a long race coming up, and a difficult sort of one to predict in terms of what we're going to see here. Who's got low downforce on their car? Who's gone for the high downforce that they can really use in the final sector. Who's going to use what tyre at what stage in the race, including how they're going to start this race? That's going to be a bit of a minefield in itself.
It's been a weird one with what we've seen over the course of the season. Excuse me. Of course, we had some interesting strategies from the likes of Chukwuemeka Lalu last race, going for I think some softs in that first stint and a big undercut. But then it seems like the mediums are now becoming the common factor for the start. But also, if you go on hard, you can go really long. So everything is open. As I said, the tyre strategy, you can basically do whatever you want in any order, and it will come out to be a half-decent strategy. But then it's down to the fine details. What exact lap do you pit on to get a certain undercut? When do you order your tyres? Maybe, of course, you then get the undercut in the first stint, but then at some point you're then going to be overcut by the other people, so you need to choose maybe when you go on your softer tyres to counteract that. There's a lot of choice, and the strategist will be harder work. And as ever, we do have DRS down the Parabolica as well, so the overtaking will definitely be possible for those trying the extra aggressive strategy.
Yeah, good afternoon to everyone who is tuned in today, by the way, as we get ourselves ready for the 67 laps of a race. Warm-up just being completed at the moment. I don't know if you've seen Ed Hunter's story that he just put in the YouTube chat, that he once hired someone for a series called Matthew Williams, believing it was Matthew Williams is just qualified fifth. It wasn't, and that I imagine became quickly apparent. So there you go. That's quite a funny story. I've never heard that
seconds
before.
off the pace. But this isn't the same guy.
Yeah, he must be rubbish in touring cars. What's open wheel merchant? No. I just thought that's worth mentioning. Made me chuckle a bit. But there you go. We're of course on the Grand Prix layout of the Hockenheim Ring these days. It's been over 90 years since this circuit was first opened to racing, and it's changed very, very, very massively. If that's the phrase you want to use in that time. But a good circuit for racing on, nevertheless, and not one that sees Formula 1 style action too much anymore. And as I mentioned, it's been 5 years since we saw it in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Back then it was two-stop strategies that ruled the day, starting on the soft tyres, going to the hards for the end for most drivers, certainly those who finished inside the top 6 or so. That was the way to go back then, but it's not going to be the same here. And if we're seeing a 3-stop race, then it's going to be a very energetic one, if you like. An average of 17 lap stints or something along those lines, if you're going to stop 3 times today.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I think, with the strategy. I really think we're going to see some drivers try some interesting things. We saw the 3-stop work in the pro race, and obviously this is longer, so I don't think we're going to be seeing anyone trying the 2-stop. But then if everyone's 3-stopping, as I said, it depends on the order that you do the tyres. In warm-up, obviously we saw a lot of the medium compounds, so I'm thinking that we're going to see that. I expect the mediums to go somewhere around 15, maybe a little bit longer laps. The hards can do about 20, in that sort of range, so depending on how you work it, then obviously you might be able to give yourself, 2 mediums and 2 hards for a nice easy one. Do you want to put a set of softs in there somewhere as well, just to spice it up a little bit? That's exactly the decision making that the drivers will be doing right now.
Yeah, and how much on the fly decision making is there going to be, I think, is very interesting, because it somewhat surely depends on who's around you. If you're stuck in traffic a little bit, then you might decide to do something a little bit different, maybe, that you would if you were in the lead of this race, or towing the field around, which could be a possibility today as well. So we'll wait and see on that, and see where we get to in terms of strategy. As we see the end of warm-up here, it is still a couple of drivers we're waiting for times from here. Well, I say that because the session is going to end in a couple of moments' time, and we can get forward with the race. But a couple of people just out there warm-upping while that's going on, including Sander Callas by the looks of things, who's looking to take the extra practice on here for whatever reason. And we're waiting for him as a result. But that will end very shortly, and we'll be forward towards the formation lap and get to see really who's on what tyre to start the day. But before we get in with any of that, we'll have a look at the starting grid and where everybody is lining up ahead of the German Grand Prix, round 3 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2024. And for the first time in a little while, Ewan Simicic is on pole, his 30th ever in this series. Jake Dennehan alongside him with Yannick Bock and Manuel Biancalula, two of the podium finishers from round 2, starting in 3rd and 4th today. Matthew Williams on his Optimum eSports debut in the World Championship is 5th ahead of Championship leader Jan Kvakvist, and Australian Grand Prix winning Owen McGorgy is ahead of Jonas Braksok on row 4. Running up the top 10, it's Dennis Jordan and Ruben Machede, with Alex Siebel directly behind his Goodyear Ferrari Esports teammate Cosmo Prosciutto, the first of the Go Team Racing drivers, in 12th. Michi Hoyer is 12 positions behind his teammate in 13th, alongside Giordano Valeriano, who dropped a couple of positions post-race at the Australian Grand Prix. Sana Callas and Matthias Stair are on row 8, ahead of Martin Mergley and Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Kostas Van Vukas and Philip Puska round out the top 20, but that's not where it finishes here in the World Championship anymore in 2024. We've got 22 cars on the grid now from round 2 onwards. George Zalagianis and Stavros Moudzadis make up the 11 rows, the final 11th row indeed, and they're on their way for the formation lap. So, who is on what tyre, and how much can we trust it? Because we've been tripped up by it in the past. It's a little bit less sort of soft tyre runners on this occasion. There's normally quite a few of them. To our numbers at the moment, although it's switching around pretty regularly, there aren't any soft tyre runners in the field off of the start, which surprises me to a degree.
Yeah, looks like mediums are the way to go this season, I guess. Of course, whenever we start the formation up, it always defaults to hards on the graphic until it just takes 30 seconds or so for it to update. And it does look like the mediums are the way to go. Is Yanni really on the hard compound tyres? If he is, that is a very interesting option. We'll just give it another few seconds or so, but it does seem like mediums are the way to go. And I think the reason why is because the mediums, they just open up the door, because you can obviously stay on mediums again for the second stint. You can go to softs, get a big undercut, or you can go to the hards and really push it through that middle part of the race. So I think it just gives you that most leeway. And as it stands, only Mergley and Yanni Simicic, the people on the hards. Let's see how that one goes out the final corner.
Yeah, especially surprised about Mergley because he's already a long way back. I guess Simicic is hoping to hold 4 at the front of the field and defend from there, but you're right, mediums seem to be the way to go to start with, but you've got to remember you can't go on mediums all day as much as these guys might like to.
Yeah, you have to you have to use 2 different compounds of tyres, and obviously with that you have to comply with the regulations, and also you wouldn't want to, because you wouldn't make it to the end on 3 sets of the mediums.
Now the medium shot and hard tyre runners make their way towards the line and get themselves onto the grid boxes. Ewan Simicic with his 30th ever pole position in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, looking to convert that into another historic win. Currently 9th in the standings after his first no-point scoring finish in nearly 4 years. How will he bounce back here today at the German Grand Prix? For the first time in 3 years, it's time to go racing in Germany. The Hockenheim Ring playing host to 67 laps of racing, and we are underway. A good start from the hard tyres of Ewan Simicic, with Jake Dennehan tucking into line immediately. Yannick Bock 3rd, getting into line as well. Then it's Manuel Biancalula who's challenging him. Matthew Williams looking to hold on to 5th position ahead of Owen McGorgy, who's side by side with him for race clutch. Now out of turn 2, 3 and 4 they go. Absolutely wheel to wheel between those two as they go around the parabolica for the first time. This is where the carnage can ensue, and certainly has done in years gone past. Here goes Jake Dennehan to the inside line, and he will lead at the end of the first sector of the German Grand Prix, overtaking immediately on the straight.
And Biancalilla, of course, getting 3rd place in the end. McGorgy getting on top of Williams. So it seems like he wanted to be in that toe, coming down towards the hairpin on that first lap. In the background, we saw 3 wide for a moment in time. So I think the showdown, maybe Michi Hoyer also getting involved in that one after their small collision at the previous race as well. Looks like it's pretty stable in that midfield. Oh, what a start up towards the front there. Also side by side. Matthias Stair diving up the inside in towards the stadium, back to back out.
He did, and he's going to have to back out again there because it's the left-hander that banks 12th corner at the Sats curve. But meanwhile, the top 2 in the championship last year and the top 2 in this race right now are running away from the rest of the field. End of the opening lap, just half a second between them, but there's nearly another second back to Manuel Biancalula, and I know he overtook Yannick Bock on that lap, but that seems like a large opening after just one time around this circuit.
And it looks like the hard tyres are the ones for Yanni Simicic. it hasn't updated for him, and therefore he is now having to sit behind. This did work at the previous race. It was Omagorgi on that day who was able to have the hard tyres and was able to use it for good effect. It looks like DRS already active on that second lap, so drivers using it to try and make some moves, but I think everyone was pretty stable there, at least inside the top 10 or so, who know this is a crucial moment of the race. This is where you don't want to kill your tyres. You want to be keeping them nicely as they're just sort of holding their position for at least a couple of laps.
Yeah, ambient temperature around at the moment, very much fitting with the time of year here in Germany. Just under 10 degrees out there in the air right now. A bit warmer on the circuit, as you know, but that won't cause any problems, you wouldn't have thought, unless you self-create problems, if you like, for the tyres. One position loss for Matthew Williams here off the start, and that's largely down to Omagorgi, who's made a really good start here. 5th place in this race right now and seems to be bursting with confidence after a win 2 weeks ago. Have a look at how it all happened at the first time of asking. This is into turn 1 as they tried to filter their way through for the first time. A couple of people running wide as expected on the opening lap.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit later actually that we were looking. Matthias Ster, he's already gone off, had some issues and lost his front wing, so must have been something actually a little bit before already coming out of the hairpin.
He's missed it. He's missing it there, isn't he? Yes, he is. So I'm not sure. Oh dear, and he's nearly crashed into the wall with the lack of front downforce there. Now getting in the way slightly of some of those around him. That's not going to impress everybody, but one casualty, unfortunately, from the opening lap there in terms of a front wing loss. There is Matthias out of the pit lane and onto the circuit again. Going to be a very long 67 laps for him if that is how it has started. But that's the dangers of the opening lap. You've got to make your way through. I mean, thankfully, only one driver has received damage this time around, and it could have been worse, I suppose, in that respect. But nevertheless, Matthias Ster is in for a lonely afternoon.
Yes, he is, unfortunately, and that's happened twice now in the opening 3 races for him, so he's going to have to, well, basically just keep going. Top 15 get points in this championship, and he has nicked a couple already this season, so let's see if he can do so. But Go Team Racing just slightly struggling in terms of that, I guess, luck as such, the racing luck that comes with it. You see on the track map, he's all on his own coming into sector 3, and everyone else coming out onto the back straight.
Yeah, exactly. And that's got to be a pretty soul-destroying thing. DRS not really being used by very many inside the top 5 right now. Yoni Simoncic has just about got it from Jake Dennehan. Omagorgi has got it from Yannick Bock too, just about. But Manuel Biancalilla had lost it. Bock had lost it as well on the straight there. But it's worth noting that the DRS is not very powerful if the driver in front of you is using their energy and you're not. Then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. It really is important, of course, but you can't use it all day. You've got to manage that energy, as we know and have had for a couple of years now in the World Championship. You've got to use it as and when you need it, save it up in the right moments, and that's how you make things work and win races in the World Championship these days. It's a lot different to how it used to be. You get the feeling, though, that Yoni Simoncic does hold the advantage with the DRS of Jake Dennehan and the slipstream and all that comes with that. The fact that he's sticking with Dennehan early on with harder tyres is a real plus point for him.
Yeah, DRS is still fairly long at this track, actually. But, of course, the default track has 3 DRS zones down the main straight, the second one up to turn 2, and then this one as well. So definitely don't need all 3. But maybe it's still quite a bit. The detection is actually very awkward. It's on the exit of turn 2, and it's 0.7 seconds the gap that you need. So Yanni is just keeping himself just inside that 0.7, and it's working wonders because it's really pulling him along and gaining those extra couple of tenths that he's going to need on these hard compound tyres. But as always with this championship, just wait for the first pit stop, and then you'll see where the differences are coming. Because right now there's no differences between the drivers, apart from Yanni, of course, on the hard tyres. Everyone else is on the mediums. But once you start getting the different strategies into it, once you start getting some people undercutting, then all of a sudden it makes sense to start doing a bit more of a desperate overtake.
I think it's worth noting, though, what Omagorgi did 2 weeks ago. And I know you pointed this out a couple of moments ago, Cam. He started on those hard tyres. He was around those on mediums, and he was able to win the race. I think partly because of that first stint. I asked him afterwards where he thought the race was won. I think he said the exit of the final pit stop. So I guess that is true as well, because he came out first and so on with an advantage. But I feel like the first stint was really important to that win in hindsight, even if it didn't feel like it at the time, because he was able to stick with those on softer tyres than him while he was on the hards, and that really set him in a good way to go and attack when the others used hard tyres. Yoni Simicic may well be in a similar position here, where he's sticking with Jake Dennehan well, and is in fact the only driver to stick with Jake Dennehan within a second so far, and then he'll use those softer tyres to strike later on.
But with that gap opening behind him to Biancalilla, maybe that is going to open the door for Bock to try and do something to Biancalilla. You mentioned earlier, it's a bit harder to overtake with the driver in front of you as DRS, but Biancalilla does not have that anymore. And now Bock needs to decide, does he want to try and bridge that gap up to Simicic? Because we saw how good his pace was back in Melbourne. We know he's able to win the race, but he doesn't want to let that gap get too big just yet.
Yeah, exactly. He can't afford to let that happen, and surprised that Manuel Biancalilla is letting it happen at the moment as well. I'm sure if he had the speed, then he wouldn't be letting it, and he's not exactly choosing to sit 2 seconds behind the pair of them. However, the fact is, he's not got the DRS of those ahead, and he's created a really large train right the way back to about Michi Hoyer, who is in 12th position, the other Rafa car in the field. Is he just clinging on to this train? Yeah, just about. He's not quite there. Martin Mergley not quite with Michi Hoyer, as that was a bit of a run wide. That's going to be a talking point today. Are we going to see any drive-through penalties today as a result of turn 1 mainly, actually?
Yeah, the turn 1 curb was about 3 times as wide. I mean, I mentioned we did a track update about a week ago, and it was shortened just to the normal sort of 1 width curb. But of course, therefore, if you run off it, you can get the track cut, and the point generally is only 3. But it's been increased to 6 because of the severity of that curb, and lots of people were complaining about it. But as ever, Ewan, we were discussing this before we came on air. Sim races, they might complain about it, but at the end they just adapt and they get on.
Matthias Sterres out the race, by the way, our first retirement from the German Grand Prix for 2024, I'm afraid. Let's see how it happened on the way towards turn 11. High-speed right-hander, of course. You can't get loose before getting onto that curb. The second front wing lost for Go Team Racing. He's still got all his wheels intact, but decides to call it a day in the gravel. No surprises there, but just a little insight into what we might see at turn 11 today.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's very fast on the entry, and it's actually not too much of a corner really in these cars. It's easy, 7th gear, maybe down to 6th with the heavy fuel that they've got at this moment in time. And you've got a big curb, you've got the Astro on the outside as well, and also the entry apex, you can really just go all over that. So in theory, it's an easy corner, but if you get it slightly wrong, and you hit the curb just at the wrong angle like you did there, maybe a little bit of setup as well, the rear just goes and spins around. So definitely a tricky one if you want to be able to do something, but maybe not so tricky as this overtake for Bock, or actually in the end it might be around the outside because Biancalilla is defending it quite well.
He does, and does Bock get the late apex and the nice drive that he really needs here to have another go into the Mercedes arena right in front of that grandstand there? Well, no is the answer, pretty categorically actually. Yannick Bock wasn't able to get the exit required to have a go, but look at how much closer everybody is here. Owen McGorgy's next, then it is Matthew Williams, Jan Krakvis not too far away, and Jonas Braxok has made some places as well, or made some ground anyway, in terms of where he is in the race. He's not actually up any positions, but he's right in here too. Dennis Jordan next, then it's Ruben Mercedes. There's a few bigger gaps further back between the likes of Alex Siebel, Michi Hoyer and so on, but look at this is all one long line as Jan Grankvist has 2 goes at turning into the penultimate corner here. He'll go over the line in 7th position again. It very much seems like a waiting game right now. Battling seems to be, or the threat of battling anyway, seems to be losing them time. They don't really want to let those leaders get away any further.
Yeah, now one battle already added another half second or so to the gap between Simicic and Biancalilla. And of course, for Grankvist, not only is he leading FSR right now, but he's leading GPWC Super League. He's doing a lot, and he's doing a lot of it very well at this moment in time. Let's see how that works out this season as Bock goes to the outside once more.
Oh, he's going to have to get that exit again. This is like watching a replay of what we saw 1 lap ago. No exit from Yannick Bock, I'm afraid, and Manuel Biancalilla will be able to protect that position all day long if that's all that Bock can offer.
Yeah, he needs to try something different, but if Biancalilla puts his car in the right place, and obviously there's very little in terms of tyre wear difference at this moment in time, so they're all able to get similar exits off the corners. But what they just need to be careful is to not back up each other behind too much, otherwise they'll run over each other, because for every car that's in front of you, you have to brake a couple of meters earlier. But if the fifth car in line doesn't brake that 10, 20 meters earlier that they need to, they'll be running into the back of them by the apex. So they'll be very careful indeed as we go on to lap 10 of the race. And I can just give it a couple more laps, and those who want to go for an aggressive strategy will be at least starting to think about going into the pit lane. But right now, is Brock going to be close up? I don't think he is this time around.
Well, I thought that last time actually, so you never know whether it, well, I think you're right on this occasion. Manuel Biancalula probably is far enough ahead to hold on to third place, although Brock will close in and close further, but not enough into the hairpin. Single file then at the end of lap 10, or midway through lap 10 anyway. You're watching the German Grand Prix in the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 2024. What a great season we've had to start things off. At the Bahrain Grand Prix, it was Jake Dennehan who took the win ahead of a chasing Jan Grankvist and Jonas Braksok, who joined him on the podium that day. It was a debut win for Owen McGorgy, the other Racecox car, claiming victory at the Australian Grand Prix, the first time we visited that venue for quite some time a couple of weeks ago. Now it's time for the German Grand Prix for the first time since 2021. Michi Hoyer was the last race winner around here, just over a second ahead of Alex Sewell by the end of that day, but Sewell got a penalty, would end up fourth after the race. Hopes of a Michi Hoyer repeat win on home soil today, I think, diminishing already.
I'll tell you what though, he's not in a bad place. Realistically, he's just on the back of this train, and we saw Biancalilla, he dropped down to P12 at one point back in Melbourne, of course, with things happening ahead, managed to get back up on the podium. So I wouldn't be surprised if Michi's able to do something. The funny part is he always seems to find himself around Alex Sewell at some point in the races, and he's certainly done so again today as they sit just off the back of the top 10.
Look at that DRS train. It's very prominent on our graphics. And I just wonder, Cam, how much it's actually helping these guys to just sit here. I mean, there's the obvious sort of tyre conservation benefit, but how much is it going to benefit them in the long run with the two leaders getting 3 seconds up the road? Are they resigning themselves to a battle for third here?
I think it depends what they do on the strategy, but for sure it's going to be a lot more difficult. They're going to have to do something in terms of undercuts or something on the strategy at least to try and get ahead. It's not going to be not going to be the easiest one for these drivers to try and win this race, but you can see these seconds work out, especially as I mentioned when we get a little bit later in the race. Things start to open up. Right now these drivers are all being a bit conservative, they're all just waiting, they're biding their time. As soon as you start seeing these drivers push to the absolute limit, now that's where you'll see the seconds go up and down in terms of these gaps. So I'm not too worried at this point in the race. They're trying to be smart, they're trying to be clever at this time.
They are, certainly. But that gap now decreasing. As soon as I said it was 3 seconds and worrying, well, 2.4 and maybe less so, as Manuel Biancalula just begins to turn on the speed a little bit. And so does Jurnej Simoncic. Look at that gap now. A third of a second between Jake Dennehan and Jurnej Simoncic. The two of them fought so hard at the end of the Japanese Grand Prix, of course, for that championship win. Dennehan trying to keep it alive, Simoncic trying to seal it with one race to go at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Well, there is no Brazilian Grand Prix this year. We might well see it wrapped up at the Japanese Grand Prix for the second year in a row, but there's a long way to go until we get to there, and a long way to go for both of those two protagonists as well, of course. Jurnej Simoncic only having scored points in one of the two races we've had so far. What a remarkable Australian Grand Prix we saw. Well, it's been slightly unremarkable so far. It's been single file at the front of the field for 12 laps now, but I think that was a notable moment there. Simoncic getting a lot closer that time, and maybe there's a change for the lead coming here. I
do think this is coming, and the reason why is because Simoncic knows as we get towards lap 15 and those mediums go off, Jake is obviously going to get the undercut naturally by pitting earlier. So Jurnej wants to be ahead and try and remove as many seconds as possible of that potential undercut. Because obviously if Jake pits now, he gets a couple of seconds undercut. By the time Jurnej pits, then obviously he's going to be up the road. If Jurnej gets ahead, then he'll be able to at least counteract maybe one of those seconds. That could be ever so crucial. He's come down in towards the hairpin, big dive maybe, at least looking. And he's just trying to make Jake a little bit nervous, I think.
He is, and he's succeeding slightly in terms of getting in the mirrors. It's got to be disconcerting, but Jake Dennehan has experienced it before, don't forget. He's a, not to say seasoned pretender in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We can't quite say that just yet, but he's getting better. He's won both of the last 2 season openers in the World Championship and was pretty decent in 2022 as well at Imola, although did get disqualified from that race in the end. He does start the seasons well. It's about sustaining that now for him over the course of 2024 as we run up towards that Japanese Grand Prix at the start of August. A short season this time around. It finishes actually in only just over 4 months. We started only 4 weeks ago. This season is going to be rattled off very, very quickly indeed. Out of turn 1 they go with that refined curb on the outside line. Jone Simoncic using his speed now and his class just to get closer to Jake Dennehan, who slides under the pressure on that exit there of turn 2. Now he's going to have to use some energy if he wants to retain the lead of the German Grand Prix. Here goes the 4-time champion down the inside. This is going to be slam dunk for Jone Simoncic, who will get to the lead, and he is in front of Jake Dennehan after 13 laps. Look at Barian Kalula bringing the rest of them to the leaders as well.
And Dennehan definitely struggling on the rear tyres, and this is exactly, I think, why Simoncic took the hards in this first stint. He knew if he could keep the pace with the leaders, especially being on pole position, even if he dropped down to 3rd, 4th place, if he could keep the pace of the leaders, then he is still in a good place. And now that he's got the consistency of those hard tyres, they've now overcome the mediums, and he can try and pull away and negate any sort of undercut potentially that the medium tyres are going to do. Is Jake going to respond by this and come straight into the pit lane? In 14 laps, it is it's still a nice number to come into the pit lane, but no, he is going to stay out and try the strategy game, but he is wiggling around quite a bit.
There's not. I wondered whether someone was going to do it at least, and we do have a stopper in the lane. It is Matthew Williams of Optiminal. So this is a nice call for him. From him, absolutely nothing to lose. Sort of a wild card entry almost, given it's his first race of the season. You just wonder where it's going to bring him out, and if it's in traffic, then he could be in trouble. But if not, you just never know for Matthew Williams. Out of turn 4 goes Manuel Biancaluna now, as he's under pressure from Yannick Bock again. And this is the most concerted effort we've seen from Yannick Bock actually so far. Podium 2 weeks ago. Is it another replay of what happened in the past? Yes, pretty much. There's no exit there from the hairpin that was needed so dearly by him to get that 3rd position, and he stays 4th.
He certainly does, but they're right on the back of Jake Dennehan now. And this is interesting with how it's starting to open up. We thought Jake had a 3-second lead over these guys at one point, and now he's only just ahead and is looking like he's struggling on that first set of medium compound tyres. Pit stops are definitely going to be opening up as we're seeing some of the drivers now get to that point with the tyre where they are losing time and they are starting to go off a little bit of a cliff. And now it's like Matt Williams last lap. He decides to get the undercut. Is anyone else going to do so? Yes, Jake comes in to stop losing any more positions.
Well, more time, I think, is the pressing issue. 2.5 seconds was the margin as he came into pit lane there, and he's been followed by someone as well. It looks like Jonas Braxtock, who is in with him. There he goes, up on the jacks. Is that soft tyres from Jake Dennehan, or is that just the red of his car reverberating around the screen there? We'll have a look when he exits the pit lane in the moment. It is soft tyres, isn't it? Unless they're going to change in a couple of moments' time. Out he goes. Well, Jake Dennehan on the aggressive strategy. Don't mind this at all, as Kostas Van Fucus is right behind him. Here goes Yannick Bock again. Is this finally the moment? He gets to 2nd. Whoa! That was a huge slide from Manuel Biancaluna, who just about gives room. Bock slides all over the place on the exit of the hairpin there, and they retain 2nd and 3rd.
Well, it's starting to get tense now, isn't it? They've seen the opportunities coming their way, and Jake going on the softs. I think this is a really interesting call, and I love to see it. Because now he's going to get a huge undercut, because even just in 1 or 2 laps there's going to be many, many seconds on those soft compound tyres, which are definitely the fastest tyres by far. And what it leaves is Jone Simoncic out with a 3-second lead, as Biancaluna is doing such a good job to defend in that Team VEM car. And is he going to continue out? Is there going to be any more undercuts coming their way of some people? Yes, it is. Yannick Bock comes in, and also in behind McGorgy, Grankvist, all of them.
They are pretty much all in here. Make sure you slow down for the line in time here. Yannick Bock leading them onto pit lane, probably frustrated by the last 17 laps, to be honest with you, after spending almost all of it behind Manuel Biancaluna. Here's Matthew Williams. Even he got a bit of an undercut on Jake Dennehan, actually. He wasn't actually that far behind the race Dutch driver as they came out the pit lane, so I reckon he'll be right in the mix here. Dennehan, though, will be ahead of all of them. There goes Yannick Bock out the pit lane, nowhere near Jake Dennehan, but nor where you expect him to be. There goes Matthew Williams ahead of Yannick Bock, and Ruben Machene as well goes through. That is going to be a huge help to Williams.
That is big. Mercedes had his pit stop, hasn't he? I think this is some great team play. Yes, he has. So, I mean, Optiminal, they come late into this championship, and now they're technically in a top 5 position once this all works out. And that is very interesting with the late entry into the championship. They seemed very confident, did Reuven, when he was speaking to me about joining after the first race. And this is just why. They're showing reason why now.
They certainly are. Fair play to Optiminal Esports. It's been very rare in the Formula SimRacing World Championship that we've even seen a team, a whole concerted effort from a team to join midway through a season. Admittedly, it was for round 2, which is not exactly midway yet, but you get the point. And to bounce back from 0 points scored at the Australian Grand Prix in such unfortunate circumstances as well. This is a remarkable effort from Optiminal, but we won't speak too soon for them. Dennis Jordan is into the pit lane for Scuderia Ferrari Esports. We've got a few more on the soft tyres now, by the way. We didn't spot that Owen McGorgy and Jan Grankvist have done the same. Dennis Jordan won't, and he'll be behind them all. But here are the soft tyre runners. What amazing news it is for us to see all 3 tyre compounds very much in play early on in this race.
Absolutely, and it's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. You can pretty much do whatever strategy you want and whatever tyre order you want, and you can try and make it work. It just depends with where you are in the train and where you need to make the positions. At what point is that a bit of a send up the inside a little bit? That's Yannick Bock trying to make the move on Reuven Mercedes. So it's going to be getting a little bit tense now. I see McGorgy trying to get the run, of course, on those soft compound tyres.
Oh, that's close, and he needs to make this progress. This is important for his race. Oh, my goodness me. Yannick Bock was so late on the brakes there as he skated it into turn 8. He very, very nearly hit the driver in front of him, and now he's got everybody trying to overtake him. Jan Grankvist goes through. Reuven Mercedes is going to get overtaken by him very soon too, but Owen McGorgy gains 2 places as a result of Yannick Bock's late braking, I think I'll say. Very nearly a big accident.
And Simoncic now coming into the pit lane. Bianca Lilla as well, despite being on the mediums, pits at the exact same time as Simoncic, of course, on the hards. Where do we come out, though? And as expected, Jake Dennehan gets the undercut and retakes that position. Matt Williams, though, is in that 3rd place. McGorgy 4th. And then Reuven Mercedes up into 5th place.
Amazing. Fantastic stuff, but I think he's going to get absolutely mauled in this stint, to be honest with you. He's on hard tyres, like a helpless duck trying to run away from a fox. I'm afraid it's not going to be particularly good viewing for him the next 10 laps or so. Down the inside goes Jan Grankvist into the hairpin. Side by side, meanwhile, for Dennis Jordan and Manuel Biancalilla. Jordan about the only one on the mediums. This race is bizarre. Softs and hards are the way to go, but mediums for Jordan. He'll go down the inside of Manuel Biancalilla, who's now been overtaken, but doesn't go down without a fight. He does, though, go down to 9th place from about 3rd where he was in the first stint. What a bizarre race.
I can't work out what the best tyre A is in general and B is the best to be on at this time, because it depends around the people around you. Because the hard tyres actually seem pretty good for Simoncic in the first stint, and he's actually gone to the hard tyres again, so he loves them. He thinks hard tyres are the way to go, but then it seems like some of the others, Race Clutch and Grankvist, they think that the softs are the way to go. Of course, the softs are really only going to last maybe 12 laps or so, so it is going to be a shorter stint, but they can gain some time or positions and then get an undercut for the next stop, then of course they're going to gain time that way.
Yeah, really odd race, but and then Gerbil one that's certainly going to be bubbling up, because I've got to say the first 15 laps or so of this race was not fraught with overtakes. That's one way of putting it, but there was bubbling up interest as the strategy began to come into play. Now, one thing that has surprised me a little bit here, and I guess Simoncic would have used a lot of energy on the way into the pit lane, is Jake Dennehan's lack of a lead as Yannick Bock makes his way down the inside of Reuven Mercedes. I would have expected Dennehan to be in the lead by a second or so, but Simoncic, quite crucially, has clung onto the DRS again here.
Yeah, I wonder if that is a lot of battery being used by Simoncic on the in-lap, or is it Dennehan not over-pushing on the out-lap, knowing that he's naturally going to get that place back with the speed of the softs. He does need to over-push and ruin those soft tyres, which, as I said, they're quite fragile. They only last about 12 laps or so, give or take. So, yeah, you do have to be a little bit smart sometimes. So he's still at the track position. He still did what he needed to do with the strategy.
There's a notable gap now happening in the field, appearing in the field. The top 5 now have made the front group. I thought it was going to be all about the top 2 actually after watching the first few laps of the first stint. However, that has proven to be not true, and there was about 12 in there by the end, but there's a gap that's been created here. It's all been created around Ruben Mercedes a little bit, as Yannick Bott was exceptionally late on the brakes a few laps ago. He's now got past Mercedes the correct way, and he's up to 8th position, but that 2-second gap is quite something to cross, and there's some big names caught behind it as well. Manuel Biancalilla has not had a good pit stop cycle. He's the real big loser from this.
Yeah, he stayed out very late, of course, so he's basically just been undercut by Jordan Mercedes, Bach, Grank, McGorgy, Williams, all of them going past him. So I'm not sure. Let's see how it works out, because of course he's on the hard tyres now. He's going to be going long. He might just have to come back again in that final stint, or the final couple of stints. Definitely going to be a slightly tougher one, as he's lost all that track position early.
Yeah, I struggle to see where the regaining of all of that is going to come from, but it's going to have to for him. Let's see as we get towards the end of another lap. We're about third of the way through the German Grand Prix actually now. It's 67 laps around the Hockenheim ring here this afternoon for round 3 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We go into turn 1 with Jake Dennehan. Such a committed high-speed corner. It's a shame that none of the other corners really around Hockenheim are quite like that. It's a wonderful bit of commitment that you need through there. And then the exit out of turns 2, 3 and 4 really needed, because round turn 5, the Parabolica, you'll get the DRS and the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, down at the hairpin, down into turn 6, and Owen McGorgy is going to use that to join his teammate in the podium places. Matthew Williams' early stop might be getting paid for right now, as Owen McGorgy makes his way to 3rd.
But Williams has still benefited from this, and he's on the hard tyres, so he is going to be losing these couple of positions. I'm sure Grank's going to get him as well, but he gains that time, but it doesn't matter, because by the time he drops back, he's way ahead of that train that's actually started to open up a bit of a gap behind, because Yannick Bach has dropped off by a couple of seconds. So I think Williams has still played a bit of a strategy blinder there, because he's on the same tyres as Brock, Mercedes, basically the same as Jordan, Biancalilla, even Brake Schultz. He's just got ahead of all of them while doing the same strategy.
Yeah, and well, there's a long way to go, but it's looking more and more like those that have gotten out of the first stops well are going to be the ones who are up towards the pointy end at the end of the race, at the important end of the race. But we'll see. Sterling Simoncic still very close in attendance with Jake Dennehan here, who's now been on those tyres for 8 laps or so, getting towards 10 laps now on these soft tyres for those who are running it. Jan Grankvist, one of them, of course, just behind Matthew Williams here, who's really the big winner from that first round of stops. And Jan Grankvist goes down his inside and up to 4th place. This has been the story of Jan Grankvist's season. Be relatively quiet, but be effective. And it's got him, so far, 36 points in just 2 races, and he's up here again now.
Yeah, it's working out really good for Grank. I would say consistency is the way to go in this championship. Even despite the championship only being 10 races long now, we used to have 18, 16 races some years ago. It's been a lot shorter for the last 5 years, and it really just benefits those who actually can be more consistent, because as much as making an 18 race championship, you can win on that, there's also too many races where the better drivers can then come out on top. When it's only a 10 race season, you can easily have someone like Simoncic have a bad couple of races. Someone like Dennehan as well gets up and down. There's a huge slide there from the shoulder. So in 10 races, in some ways, you actually have to be more consistent to be at the top.
Yeah, you definitely do. And there's very little time to recover yourself from bad races as well. That's worth noting as we get onto the Parabolica again. Yoni Simoncic is going to have the DRS here. There it is, the letterbox open, but he will stay 2nd. What about Jan Grankvist, who is getting quite close to Owen McGorgy there? Well, not close enough, and he will stay 4th behind Owen McGorgy in 3rd. Dennis Jordan not really making progress on those medium tyres at the moment. Manuel Biancalilla finally does, and he's up to 8th place.
Yeah, Ruben slightly struggling on pace compared to his teammate. We're still up there in the top 10 of the World Championship, and he's easily inside this top 12 train that goes down to Alex Seidel. They've really pulled away from that second pack being led by Chikapeka Lalu on the soft tyres at this moment in time. So the top 12 showing their class. and the fact that Mercedes up here, which, bearing in mind, it's not like he was in the Pro Championship, winning races and absolutely dominating. It was a little bit of a step up here, and he's really taken that and tried to get on the pace.
Well, 8 seconds off the pace right now for Manuel Biancalillas. That's wide for Mercedes. What's going on there? Jonas Braxot goes straight through. The Brabham car almost let through by the Optimal eSports car, and Mercedes now really struggling. I'm not sure when he put those hard tyres on, but they might be feeling the effects of the amount of laps that they've done already, because Mercedes really starting to fall through the field now.
I'm pretty sure he's already made a pit stop, but I'm pretty sure as well he's going to be losing 2 places here. This is going to be, is it a side-by-side 3 drivers going around the Parabolica there, and is actually Alex Siebel going to be thinking about a move against his old nemesis, Mitch Harino, not this time around, but yeah, Mercedes just struggling with that one a little bit. Yeah, I am 99% sure that Mercedes has stopped. It's not like he stayed out from the beginning, but maybe just overworking those rear tyres just a little bit too much.
I've got no way of knowing, so that's one for... I'm afraid on that one. Let's have a look at a couple of replays now. This is George Zalagianis, who is out of the race, by the way, and he had connection problems by the looks of that. And so that's how he is out. Unfortunately, not a good day for Go Team Racing either. And Cosmo Pisuto, who is also out of the race. I wonder if he had similar problems or whether he had an actual accident. He's getting towards the, up on that curb there on the left-hand side. Swings it around again. And, well, he seems to be back going again, but maybe didn't continue for too much longer after that. But there you go. Shows the dangers of turn 10, which has always had quite a large curve on the outside of it. There's Mercedes, so that's where Jonas Braxot got through, and so surely tyres contributing to Mercedes' lack of grip there.
Yeah, I definitely think so. As to the front, back to live pictures. Yane Simicic is in the lead on the hard tyres, overtaking Denahan on the soft. What on earth?
Well, it's the soft tyres going away now after 10 laps or so. Here it is, simple DRS pass on the way down towards the hairpin, and Jake Denahan didn't seem to argue about it too much either.
Yeah, I am so intrigued by the pace of Yane Simicic on these hard tyres in both these opening 2 stints, and this means he's going to have softer tyres at the end of the race. So when everyone else goes potentially back onto the mediums or the hards, he's probably going to have the mediums or the soft, maybe, depending on what he wants to do later in the race. So I am liking what he's doing at this moment in time. And he's got 3 soft drivers in behind. So I did mention the strategy was completely open, and I wasn't expecting to see this though, hard versus soft, but hey-ho, that's where we're at.
That is. And you wonder how many more medium tyre stints we're going to see today, because they were predominant in the first stint. Now they're nowhere. Only Dennis Jordan and Stavros Mercedes on that compound now. Here goes the championship leader. Jan Frankvist through into 3rd place, which is the average finishing position of his for the first 2 rounds of the season. And so far, all that is needed to take the points lead in a really exciting and interesting opening to the 2024 World Championship. Jan Frankvist is having a great start to his season. Up to 3rd now, ahead of Owen McGorgy and Matthew Williams, who has stemmed the bleeding a little bit from what was happening earlier on, where he was getting overtaken quite quickly.
One driver I want to look at, of course being my team boss, but still, Dennis Jordan over the next few laps, because being on those medium compound tyres, he isn't actually too far away from Matt Williams in 5th, and then of course the 3 soft runners as well. So despite being quite opening part of the race, they have pulled away. Bianca Hoyer, Braxot, Siebel, Machado, they've all dropped off the back of this, and Lalu's actually bridging that gap a bit as well. So it's really turned into this top 7 now, as McGorgy is coming already for his 2nd pit stop.
Well, we're not even halfway through the race yet, and we've seen 2 stops. Surely this is 2 hard stints to the end for Owen McGorgy. Softs again. Goodness me. They're not 4-stopping, are they?
I mean, they might. I mean, if you're going... I mean, they're fast, but they only last 10 laps.
Yeah, and they're not fast enough, are they?
Well, I mean, Simicic has proven that. He's over a 2nd in the lead now.
Yeah, I agree. Well, is Jake Denahan going to follow, or has Owen McGorgy been sent out on a bit of a kamikaze mission here? Because that is a bizarre one. It has to be 4-stop, surely. I mean, I don't know how long these hot tyres are going, and maybe Mercedes hasn't stopped yet, and he's legitimately going nearly half this race, but That's the only eventuality I can see where this works as a three-stop strategy. If McGorgy puts the hards on with maybe, 30 laps to go and goes to the end?
This is an interesting one. I'm just trying to think on the fly with what they're doing here. I was expecting soft, but only for a maximum of one stint, potentially. The fact that he's gone twice, maybe it is a full stop. But if Simicic is going another 10 laps or so, and he gets a big undercut of 10 plus seconds, being a second lap faster, then maybe it could work.
Sorry, Cal. Let's see what Jake Dennehan does here, because he's into the pit lane. Now, this is interesting for race cuts. Is it softs again? It is. Jake Dennehan is on the soft compound tyres, the red stripe tyres on the red livery car, and Jan Grankvist goes for it too. Well, this is remarkable. What a bizarre strategic race we're seeing this afternoon. Owen McGorgy will make his way past Jan Grankvist again. The undercut's so powerful, of course, and that's one of the advantages of these red stripe tyres, but goodness me, they don't last long enough, surely.
We'll have to see. They got Callas in between all of these as well, so they're going to have to try and see him off as quickly as possible, although that shouldn't be too difficult. Even with the DRS, we've seen the number 4 machine able to dive down the inside here in towards a hairpin and should have that one stuck, but it's certainly very, very interesting that they're going to get a huge undercut on Simicic here. Of course, he went, was it 19 laps on that first set of hard compound tyres? If he does that again, he's got another 10 laps to go.
Well, how long is Joni Simicic going to leave this? Because he knows he's getting undercut any way he likes here. But how much longer does he continue on? Is that the real question from here? I'd imagine so. Well, I just don't know what to make of this race anymore. The problem for Jake Dennehan as well, not least the whole tyre thing, which I still think is not going to turn out well for race cuts. The other problem is the traffic that he'll end up in. Martin Mergley's ahead of him right now. That's not going to help his progress. Same for Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who's also in the way of the two race cuts drivers. In fact, Lalu comes into the pit lane because he was on soft, so that's quite helpful. But Martin Mergley in front of them for a little bit now. This is just going to stifle the progress slightly, although Dennehan should get through into the hairpin.
I'm so interested by this because we saw Simicic overtaking very early in the stint. It was about lap 7 or 8 in the stint that he went back past, and the softs really weren't getting that advantage. But maybe this is the calculation that they did. As McGorgy is going to get through as well down the inside, so that's double race clutch there up the inside of the Brabham. As a bit of a wiggle on the back as well, as I think that was Grankvist getting past Callas in the background too. So they've obviously done the calculations because they wouldn't have done it with both cars if they weren't sure.
Well, you say that. Well, true, yes, but that doesn't mean that they're both not wrong. If you see what I mean. It's entirely possible because the thing that surprises me is the fact that they've both had good starts to the season. They're both with legitimate shouts of, I should have this strategy because I've got a chance to win this race, and they both have, because you're looking at the two race winners of 2024 so far. But I feel the problem is if they've both gone for this strategy and they're both wrong, they've kind of both led each other off course, if you like, and they're going to end up finishing 9th and 10th. That's the worry for me.
Yes, it is certainly an intriguing prospect of how the middle part of this German Grand Prix is going to go. Of course, public vote by the drivers and various team members, and this is what we've come up with, and it's certainly an interesting one. That obviously we haven't been to for quite a while, and all the drivers trying to work it out with this new car that we've got. I say new cars, very similar to last year, but the tyres, the way they work, are quite a bit different to last year. Last year was always sort of hard, medium, an easy two-stop strategy a lot of the time, but here we're getting 3 stops, we're getting 4 stops, again the softs coming into effect. There's a lot of things you can do.
There is so much still to unpick in this race. When's Dennis Jordan going to come in? I think it's the next real landmark for me, because he's on the medium tyres, and they're going to run out before those around him. In that first stint they went about 15 laps or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. We certainly got to that stage again in the second stint of this race. As we look back here from Jonas Braxo, here's another pretty important gap. The 4 seconds back to the race clutch duo. There they come round the corner.
Yeah, that's the gap that I was just seeing on that previous lap. They're closing in already on the back of this top 8 train that we've got, and I mean, you wouldn't have thought of that too many laps ago, the likes of Siebel or Rakshok, etc. being that far off, but I think this is the situation that we're in, just showing you how fast these soft tyres are. So even if they are doing an extra stop, they're already, by the end of this stint, they would have made it up, and they're probably going to get Brackshock, Siebel, probably Hoyer as well.
Speaking of how fast the softs are, have you seen young Grankvist's lap time? 1 minute 16.0. He's absolutely flying as Matthew Williams and Yannick Bock go side by side. Williams had enough of sitting behind Bock now in second position, and surely this is sort of staring each other into the abyss at the moment, because Jenny, excuse me, too many J names again. I said this 2 weeks ago. Yone Simoncic is leading by a bigger gap with every lap now, 7.5 seconds, and that's only a gap that's going to get bigger the more that these two fight, which is happening again here for second.
Yeah, I think Yone is, with that gap, I think he's good enough as Williams comes in. I think he's good enough to cover off from this race clutch. But I am race clutch strategy. I'm worried about Bock, Jordan, and the Williams as well, because they are that extra 7 seconds behind. Those are crucial seconds in battles like this. And as the race clutch cars, followed by Grankvist, of course, don't forget him. These three cars, seemingly on a very similar strategy, are trying to now chase down, as we presume they're making an extra pit stop.
Well, are they? That's the question as well.
I hope so. Otherwise, we've got no idea what we're talking about.
Well, I will admit to having no idea what's going on at the moment here, because this is just mental. On board we go with Matthew Williams, who's at the pit lane. So is his teammate Ruben Mercedes, by the way, on the medium compound tyres. That happened a couple of laps ago, and that is Giordano Valeriano, who has been dispatched. There is Mercedes looking for his first points of the season. As we mentioned before, Optimal both not scoring any points, Sergio Fletcher and Ruben Mercedes 2 weeks ago, as a result of getting involved in a crash at the last couple of corners. Very similar actually to a V8 supercar crash that happened about a week later, which is very odd if you go and look that up. It's a remarkable similarity between the two, but anyway, that was then. This is now, and it's pit stop time for Mitchie Hoyer, is it? Hard tyres have gone about, 20 laps there, not even for Mitchie Hoyer, and he's decided he's had enough with them already.
Let's see what he goes on to. Is it another set of hards with the mediums, another set of hards? So what we've got, we're basically halfway through the race, 33 laps to go. So I wonder if he just mirrors what he's done already. Goes hards and then another set of medium. We'll have to see at the end there. But certainly way less aggressive than the race clutch cars. And look how far up the road they are already from him. I know he wasn't quite behind them anyway, but he's about 14 seconds behind Grankvist.
Yeah, and that is a real problem. But if they're making an extra stop, is it so much of a problem? Well, we'll have to wait and see how far these soft tyres can go, or how far the hard can go. I think really does play into this as well. But based on that stint from Hoyer, you wouldn't say that at the end of this soft tyre stint that those three are going to be able to make it on just the one more stop. It will be their third, of course. We're only just over halfway through the German Grand Prix here. We're about to hit halfway in this race, and we've already seen 2 pit stops for 3 or more actually of these drivers. We look back now from Alex Siebel, who is watching that train of soft tyre runners catch him lap after lap after lap. They were all in the low to mid 17s on that occasion. That's nearly a second quicker again than Yone Simoncic, and in fact everybody else ahead of them who were all in the 18s on that occasion. Low 17s from the 3 of them again on that lap. Jake Dennehan the quickest with a 17.1. I mean, it's not bad, and it's a second gains pretty much every time on Yone Simoncic.
Yeah, they're going to be massively ahead once Simoncic comes in, but then if they need to do another stop, then this is the gap that they still need to chase down by the end of the race. And look how much they've caught Siebel. That is pretty impressive, the pace difference that they have at this moment in time. As in the background, we're seeing Callas and Williams having a bit of a side-by-side battle. Of course, Williams just making his pit stop on the medium tyres, getting back up inside the top 10.
Yeah, and it's a slam dunk there. So all 3 tyre compounds being used here inside the top 6 places. Dennis Jordan, the sole representative from the medium tyres. Dennehan the only one on softs in the top 6, but he's got McGorgy and Grankvist behind. And there they are. They're with Alex Siebel now. You can barely tell the difference between Race Clutch and Scuderia Ferrari eSports this season, which is not good for us, but you're certainly going to be able to tell them apart here. One of them is going very quickly, one of them slightly less so, and that's not Alex Siebel's fault. Into the pit lane go Jordan and Bock. They'll be well behind these guys, who are sure to be our new race leaders pretty soon.
Absolutely, and they are flying. Let's see if this is going to be enough for Jake Dennehan to get through. I think that's pretty slam dunk, but is Owen McGorgy going to try and make it 2 for 2 like he did last time? Maybe a little bit too far this time around, but the number 23 is going to get past the 13, so that's halfway down the straight. Siebel not even trying to defend, so it is going to be a double overtake for Race Clutch as they go past. Siebel choosing not to use any push to pass there, but Grankvist has to sit behind.
It's been 18 months, by the way, since Alex Siebel finished on the podium in a Formula SimRacing World Championship race, ever since that Brazilian Grand Prix where he lost the title on the final day to Colin Spork, who unfortunately isn't here in 2024. But that was a run of 5 podiums towards the end of that season for Alex Siebel that very nearly won him his maiden title. Unfortunately for him, he's never finished on the podium since. The best time, the best result he's had since has been a couple of 4th places at the San Marino and Japanese Grand Prix of 1 year ago. Is it going to be a podium this time around? I don't think for Siebel. He's been running towards the lower end of the top 10 for most of the day, but he's doing quite well on this stint of tyres. He's sort of doing similarly to Bianca Lulla and Simoncic, who are making these hard tyres last a very long time indeed. Yeah,
I'm loving the complete contrast that we've got. Instead of doing hards for 20 laps, we've got softs for about 10 laps each. And we're yet to find out which is going to be the best one to do so. But for a second lap in a row is going to be positions lost down the Parabolica for Siebel, who once again doesn't really defend that. And it's going to be an easy move for Grank there as he goes up into the top 5. But Dennehan and McGorgy, Grankvist, they're still 14 seconds off Simoncic. So realistically, they've still got a long way to go by the end of this race to catch up. Yeah, McGorgy caught 8 tenths last time around to Simoncic. No time for Dennehan. He must have got a cut track, I'm presuming. So there is the 4-time champion into the pit lane finally. So 30 laps to go, and he is in. He's spent, what, 22 or so? Maybe 20 laps-ish on those hard compound tyres here. So another stint of those might set him up for softs at the end. Or is he going to go for 2 mediums to the end, maybe? He's certainly got 2 more stops remaining if you include the one that he's taking part in right now. It looks like hard tyres for now, and then maybe softs to the end. He loves them. He loves the hard compound tyres. And, I mean, it's working out for him. He held up Jake in that first stint, and also in that second stint as well. And now, as we go on to his 3rd stint, he's going to have some clean air, and he can just put in some consistent laps. I'm really liking this. I wasn't expecting that 3 in a row, but it's certainly working. And who is that ahead of me? That's Alex Siebel as well. Yeah. So, to be honest, Yerne hasn't really been undercut by that much. And if they really do have an extra pit stop to make, he's surely got to be in a strong position. Yeah, I would say so. By the way, maths failing me there drastically. It was a 19-lap stint from him, not 22, so nice maths. But Yerne Simoncic on the hard tyres, again, is the important story there. I think it's worth noting, though, you said it, Alex Siebel's only just ahead of him. Basically, a pit stop behind in this race already. Yeah, he just hasn't quite had the pace of the couple of drivers around him, but he's definitely trying something different on the strategy to his teammate Dennis Jordan, who's down there in P9. So he is trying to make something work, but I should say a pit stop off. He's not going to be winning this race, but he needs to be getting as many points inside that top 10 as he can as he comes in. Let's see what compound tyres he goes on to. Yep, it will be an early box for the German and medium tyres for him, so sort of replicating his teammate, although Jordan has gone to the hards now, interestingly. There is Jake Dennehan, surely the leader of this race very soon, and interestingly he's got away from Owen McGorgy, so maybe those tyres going away from McGorgy now as Jan Grankvist goes through. There's no point in fighting at the moment. It's about lowering your race time as much as you possibly can as they try and get away from Yerne Simoncic as much as possible. Within 30 laps from the end, by the way. And how much further can they take these soft compound tyres? I think the next compound that they take on will be so crucial. It could be their final stop coming up soon. It's an interesting one, this strategy. They can't get to the end just yet on a set of hard compound tyres, so I'm sure they're going to be doing like double medium or maybe another soft and then medium, something like that. I really don't see them doing another set of hards. So they do have an extra stop, surely, which means Simoncic only being only was that 2.5 seconds behind McGorgy, despite all of that undercut. I tell you what, these softs, they really don't last that long, do they?
Not particularly. It's a real shame for Race Clutch, who look like they're being outpaced, out-strategized and out-thought by Ewan Simoncic at the moment, and outpaced maybe too, as they make their way out onto the Parabolica again. Dennehan not quite going to get the benefit of DRS, I don't think, this time, unless he was there by the detection, and he wasn't. But Jan Grankvist was. Grankvist really starting to fly now. He's past McGorgy. Oh, as we've got a car off at turn 1. I think it's the first incident at turn 1 we've seen today for Ruben Mercedes.
Yes, he spun around, and let's see at what point he does that. Is it the entry curb? Is it the exit curb? Looks like it's at the exit. Already losing the rear, actually, before he hits the exit curb. Does a really good job to lock the brakes.
Oh, wow.
That was very close, but it was the right thing to do, just to lock the brakes there.
Yeah, lock the brakes. Not sure who that was second in line, but they very nearly came through and caused the biggest crash we've seen all season for Ruben Mercedes. It's in that little group you can see further behind. Giordano Variano is a good shout. There's the movement, and it will be just behind. Well, maybe it looks scarier from Mercedes on board, to be fair, because he stood still while everybody else coming through at about 150 miles an hour. So there you go. But thankfully, everybody avoiding, and we haven't seen contact between drivers for quite some time now, as Owen McGorgy makes his way into the pit lane. Another set of soft compound tyres. They cannot get enough of them at Race Clutch.
I love this 4-stop strategy. Let's go. So we're having 3 soft stints versus 3 hard stints. How could you compare that and think about that before the race? But that is where we are, and let's see how this one works out, because his teammate Jake Dennehan as well, is he going to be close enough to the Italia Biancalilla? Not quite this time around. And how close is Simoncic in behind? Oh, he's just on the exit there. So the gap is really not that much. So these are crucial seconds, but he's going to be battling, as we've seen Biancalilla do so far this season. He's very good at defending. 2
very important things to note about what you just said there. 3 soft tyre stints versus 3 hard stints is what you said, and what we've been seeing. That makes it all the more remarkable that Ewan Simoncic is only 2 seconds behind Jan Grankvist right now, and 2.5 behind, nearly 3 behind Jake Dennehan in the Race Clutch car. That's the first remarkable thing. The second thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the fact that Manuel Biancalilla has still only made 1 stop today. He's in the realms of a 2-stop strategy right now as well, as Jake Dennehan pulls in for another set of soft compound tyres. The tyre manufacturer is going to be rapidly running out of them if Race Clutch continue at this rate. Into the pit lane goes Dennehan and Grankvist. Another set of softs for Dennehan. What about the championship leader? It is another set of softs for him too. Manuel Biancalilla might well not be out of this race just yet. He's got to be overtaken by everybody too.
I tell you what, if we see a 2, 3 and a 4 stop all inside the top 5, top 6 of this race at the end, as McGorgy undercuts both of them, I'll be very, very happy with the changes to the car over the winter, because the strategy was a little bit more fixed last year, but now it is completely open, and it's not like one is necessarily better or worse at every single track. We haven't seen this strategy so far this season, but they're trying it.
They are, and this is bubbling into a very interesting race indeed. The first stint didn't have a lot of overtaking in it, and that's, I think we're seeing the reasons why before our eyes right now. It's not exactly one of those races where there was all that stuff going on at the start, but there certainly is a lot going on now, and with 25 laps to go, we could see a 2, 3 and 4 stop race towards the end. Now, the problem for Biancalilla is that he needs to extend his stint so that his tyres will make it, but also needs to not extend his stint, because the 3 on soft tyres are going to undercut him. I think that ship has already sailed, unfortunately for him, as he goes through on another lap. 24 laps to the end here is not out of range at all, and he is on a 2-stop strategy. I'm absolutely convinced of it.
Yep, I totally agree with you, because he's done the 2 stops every race so far, so he might as well try it once again, and it has worked out both times. Will it work out this one? Indeed. So Alex Siebel, he's done 1 stop less than the 3 ahead of him, but he's still in a half decent position compared to them. My point was that they've already gained the stop on Siebel, but now it is the further drivers up ahead that they need to try and chase down. So Hoyer and Jordan both on the hard compound tyres, and especially Hoyer, he will be in the sights of the 3 fast boys at this moment in the race.
Manuel Biancalula very much not helping Jonas Simoncic's race right now as he gets in the way slightly. I say get in the way, he's just doing what he's allowed to do by driving his car, but it's not particularly enthusing Jonas Simoncic here, who's on the hard compound tyres and probably will be for another 10, maybe 15 laps. In goes Biancalula now though, not so fixated on slowing down the 4-time champion to miss his own stop, and he makes his way in now. Surely it'll be another set of hards, unless he's done too hard. He did mediums at the start, didn't he? So it will be hards again here, unless he's going for a wild change up in strategy at the end, and he is not. He is going to the end on those hard compound tyres. 24 laps, it's a bit of a stretch, but he'll be fine, and he'll hope that those hards come into their own as the 3 on soft tyres make another stop in this race, as of course we believe they will.
But he's only just behind them.
Exactly.
I really think you're right. I think Biancalula has a good shout.
He's not going to win, is he? Surely not.
I don't know, but he's got a good shout and a good result. The issue for him is that there's 3 cars on that 4-stop strategy. I think that's really the biggest issue for him.
Well,
if there was only 1 or 2 cars, maybe. But the fact there's 3 cars, he's got the potential to drop down a few positions.
do you not think Jonas Simoncic is the biggest issue here? I think Simoncic is the most likely one to catch Biancalula, to be honest. But either way, whoever catches him, they're going to be on newer tyres late on in the race, and he's going to be almost helpless.
Yeah, he won't be. On even 18 lap old hards by the point where we get to about 6 laps left, he's going to be struggling to defend. There's going to be a huge pace advantage with the drivers who will be on some very fresh, softer tyres at that point in the race. So the strategy game is completely open. We're 2/3 of the way through the race. We have a 2, a 3 versus a 4-stop strategy and multiple drivers trying each. So I'm still not convinced what the best strategy is, but we are about to find out. And here is another one that is surely going to be changing around very quickly indeed. Hoyer does not have the speed at this moment in time. He's losing hand over fist to McGorgy.
Well, this is remarkable so far. This is important though for Owen McGorgy. He needs to get through on Michi Hoyer, who surely won't make this easy. Well, he does actually. He could have helped his teammate out quite a lot there by defending from Owen McGorgy. I know it would be a forlorn hope maybe to try and keep him behind, but might have been useful. Michi Hoyer very much thinking about his own race though, as he should, because not defending there keeps his race time down, and that's what everyone's focusing on here. What McGorgy was very good at though was when he was chasing Dennehan, was following the Irishman through whenever he would make a move. Dennehan in the reverse position, not quite as good at it, clearly.
Yeah, he wasn't quite close enough to make that stick, but I think he'll have it the next time around, of course. Just doesn't want to let McGorgy get too far away, lose that DRS, because that's always those extra couple of tenths a lap that you don't have to push on the tyres. And we're very quickly approaching 20 laps to go in this race as well. So it's getting to the crunch time. It's getting to the point where everyone can get to the end on hard compound tyres. But of course, most of the drivers will be going something a little bit faster as Dennehan closes in for the overtake.
It's going to have to be now, and Jan Granqvist is going to have to do it as well, because Owen McGorgy's going to get away, and Jonas Simoncic, excuse me, will too. Out of turn 4 they go, and through goes McGorgy. Granqvist's going to have to do the same, and will do, on the way down towards the hairpin. So a bit of time lost there actually, a second and a bit now between the 2 teammates, but at least Dennehan has worked his way through now, and they can start focusing on bringing that gap down to Simoncic, and it really needs to. A 16.9 on that last lap was as quick as Dennehan. Simoncic didn't lose any time on the previous time around.
This is a remarkable race, and someone else who is a dark horse for still a strong result, Yannick Bock. He's got past Matt Williams. He's pulled away from Dennis Jordan, who they of course were following each other for the last 20 laps or so, and he's looking strong, just 6 seconds off. The issue is he's in that kind of half and half. He's halfway between Simoncic and McGorgy. So is he far enough ahead of the race clutch duo to stay in terms of the strategy game by the end? But then is he a little bit also too far to challenge Simoncic on track for the win? We'll certainly have to find out. But still a strong performance coming for the Evo driver.
I think the really important gap to monitor as well is the one between Simoncic and Biancalula. Biancalula gained 2 tenths on that last lap with a personal best the previous time around. He's still 10th, and the crucial thing I think for him as well is the fact that he's not caught anyone. Alex Siebel and Michi Hoyer might not be caught as well before they actually stop in this race, because there's only 20 laps to go as we speak. Biancalula's in a pretty decent position here to maybe go and win the race. I think what we saw just before Biancalula came into the pit lane was what we're likely to see by the end of the race, the sort of corrected order, because everybody ahead of him needs to make one more stop. I think the top 9 are in the correct order compared to where they will be by the end, because they've all got one stop left, and that is not good viewing for Race Clutch, to be honest.
Yeah, so that means Race Clutch need to overtake 4-5 cars even to win this race, whether that's going to be on strategy or on the track. So they need to gain 12 seconds on the track, plus the time lost of the overtakes. They've still got a long way to go to try and make this work, and now there's 20 laps remaining in the race. So this is getting a squeaky bum time for the drivers, who, just to remind you, this is their 3rd set of soft compound tyres, which were basically never used last season. Probably 3 sets in the whole season were used, and 9 sets have been used on your screen.
Yep, it's really quite remarkable. Here is Matthew Williams getting overtaken. You would have thought. Ewan McGorgy coming for a long way back here. Williams going to make this difficult. Now, this could be a key moment in the race, because Matthew Williams knows that everyone's got one stop left here, and he's legitimately in with them for a position. So Ewan McGorgy's going to have to get this done the old-fashioned way by actually making a move on the circuit. Will he go late on the brakes at turn 8? No. And this, all of a sudden, is going to slow them down even further.
And this is probably a good second that he's costing the Race Clutch cars just by being there on the track on his own strategy. So absolutely fair play. But this is some great defensive driving there from the Optimal driver. First race of the season was at Royal Blue last year's move to Optimal, coming in for round 3 to the end of the season. Let's see what he can do. But actually, that is why, because he was coming in the pit lane anyway. So he just wanted to make sure that he didn't lose too much time there on that in-lap. And I'm sure this is going to be to the end. And he was on the mediums already. Is he going to go back to him? Yes, he is.
Yeah, so that will be to the end for him. But look at the catching he'll have to do for Biancalula there. It's already gone past him. Manuel Biancalula is not to be counted out here. He is in this race on a 2-stop strategy. A good afternoon to Jeffrey Fournier, by the way, who's stepped into YouTube to say that what he thinks the podium's going to be. He says SimRacing Biancalula Bok, it's looking like at the moment. Well, maybe. I think Bok's a shout for the podium, certainly. As we go side by side, Race Clutch contact, I think there was there. Ewan McGorgy and Jake Dennehan may have made contact as Jan Grankvist now splits them.
God, that was tight. I wasn't expecting Grank to be going for this overtake just yet, but he's got one of them. Can he do 2? But I think there may have been just a little bit of contact there on the front nose of of Jake Dennehan's number 23 on his teammates. Is it going to be? Oh, maybe they just avoided it, but very close indeed. And a tough move there by Grankvist, who's just followed them for the last 30 laps.
Well, it was a very similar sort of incident, wasn't it? Or non-incident, actually, on this occasion. The one with Dennehan and Simicic, who spun around Siebel, of course. Give them both position penalties from the Australian Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. That was just the other side of the line, if you like, where they just avoided contact on that occasion. What's going to happen, though, on the hairpin this time around, though? It's lap 50 of the race, 17 to go when we get to the line. That was wide from Jan Grankvist. I thought he might be trying to make moves here, but Jake Dennehan may just reply now and go back through all over again. DRS enabled a bit later on in the straight, of course, than in real life, but it doesn't matter. Overtaking still not a difficulty, and Race Clutch are going to be back to 4th and 5th again, are they? It's Dennehan down the inside and through on Jan Grankvist. Meanwhile, Biancalula makes an important pass on Alex Siebel, just about.
This race is hotting up. I like what you're saying as well about Biancalula. He really is in with the shout. 17 seconds of Simicic, so he will resume the lead, doing a few tenths of the undercut by virtue of making his stop first. But we know Simicic, he'll be coming into the pit lane fairly shortly, actually. To be honest, not too many laps longer, I don't think he's going to go. But before he comes to his final pit stop. So this is going to be a very, very intriguing one. But look at actually McGorgy. He's now almost 14 seconds off. He's lost time over the last 3 or 4 laps. Yeah,
their infighting here has cost them time. 2 tenths last time around to Simicic, 1 tenth lost this time. I think hopes of even a podium for either Race Clutch driver are gone. Meanwhile, Michi Hoyer is into the pit lane now for rFactor eSports team. He's up on the jacks. He's going to the hards, which is odd. Unless he needs to use them, which I don't think he would do. 17 laps on the hards is not a very long time.
Well, the ref car seemed to like the hards today.
True.
Looking at his teammate, as Lalu is just going to squeeze ahead of him. But yeah, certainly it seems to be, obviously some teams choosing the softer tyres, some teams choosing the hards. And is that to do with driving style? Is that to do with setup? Is that to do with just the calculations that they have done? We're yet to find out which is going to be the best. But of course, Hoyer was actually not too far behind these guys either, so he's still going to get a decent result in this race.
Yeah, you would say so. Any top 10, I think, in this field, in this race, is a good result for anybody. Let's see, though, when these final pit stops are going to be made. We're still waiting for Jone Simičić, Yannick Bock and Dennis Jordan to come in the top 10. I think Sander Kallas has to come in again as well before we end this race. And, of course, the 3 on soft tyres, but that's a given. Yannick Bock and Dennis Jordan do that now. Surely mediums to the end for them. It's more mediums for the German. What about the other German? It's
long stop.
long stop for Bock. Is that the end of a podium drive for him, maybe? As Dennis Jordan goes up on the jacks, he might even be ahead of Bock here. Side by side and through. Dennis Jordan through. That might be a podium place decider right there.
Trying to think. Like, he must have had some damage. Trying to think what else could have... did he? I'm trying to remember if adjusting the front wing loses some time. But that's definitely a weird one. Or maybe he didn't request his pit stop, actually. Maybe he does a last-minute decision, and that adds a few seconds as well.
Well, it's a crucial few seconds, I'm afraid, for Yannick Bock, and it may have just cost him a second podium in 2 weeks. By the way, after the Australian Grand Prix, we'd had 6 drivers finish in the top 10 on both occasions, which is actually quite a large number. I know we've only had 2 rounds, but it's quite a large number compared to what we normally see after the opening couple. But the same protagonists are up there again. Jan Vrankvist is in the race today. So Jake Dennehan, Owen McGorgy, Manuel Biancalilli, Yannick Bock all look to be repeating the feat. Mitchie Hoyer might just about get there as well. We've had some very consistent starts to the season for quite a number of drivers in 2024.
And the championship's going to look very, very interesting. I'm absolutely loving it. Look at Biancalilli, not too far off these guys. Surely they're going to come in. Are they going to do a 4th stint on the softs at the end? Are they going to do that?
Probably.
That will be a very, very interesting one, because realistically they're only a lap or 2 away of doing that. But maybe the medium stint would be the safer option in that regard. But wow, this race has really worked out quite well for some drivers. And I'm just looking, because Matt Williams recently made his pit stop, didn't he? He's actually quite a bit off the likes of Bock, Hoyer, etc. So he's lost some time somewhere.
He has. Down in 12th, 13th place for Matthew Williams today. Janusz Brakstok lost some time today too. And he's back to 12th position, sadly for him, which is not great news, I'm afraid to say, for Janusz Brakstok. Meanwhile, these are the 3 soft tyre runners. 2 from Race Clutch, 1 from Super Venturi. They're gaining time on Jone Simičić all the time, but Manuel Biancalilli is actually quicker than them, despite being on the hard compound tyres. There are the 2 troubled hard tyre runners from the top 10 in qualifying. Anyway, Williams and Brakstok running around together. I'm afraid it's maybe a disappointment for Brabham today, because Martin Mergley, I think, still has to stop.
Yes, interesting one. We're seeing a bit of a change up. That's because they're coming into the pit lane. Is it going to be another set of the softs? Do it. Please do it.
Not quite.
What about McGorgy? McGorgy does it. He goes to the softs. 4 sets of soft compound tyres.
Wow. 4-stop race at the German Grand Prix. What a remarkable race we have had today. A slow start, but a very interesting finish. Mitchie Hoyer will get through on Jan Vrankvist at least, and now he might start to race them. He let them through earlier on, of course, knowing that the battle was to come a little bit later on, but now this is for legitimate positions, and he's well within his rights to try and overtake, although McGorgy's going to use a lot of energy here to get away from the German, and it's not even going to be enough for Hoyer to hold on ahead of Jan Vrankvist. He knows there's no time to wait. He needs to get on with it, and Jan Vrankvist gets up into 9th position.
This is so weird with the tyres that they're choosing. Grank obviously goes mediums, so he can push a bit more. McGorgy's gone soft, so he's going to pull away a little bit, but his tyres will die a little bit at the end. Then Hoyer, he only pitted a few laps ago, and he's on the hards. So he's got nothing to worry about each, but they're all thinking the different tyres are the way to go. And I do wonder if that was a mistake from Hoyer, though. Maybe he should have gone onto the mediums, but we'll only work out by the end of the race if that was the right decision or not.
Jake Dennehan is in again, and you can only imagine this is going to be a fourth set of soft compound tyres, but there's going to be your race leader. Manuel Biancalilla makes it through. Soft compound tyres for Jake Dennehan as Alex Siebel comes in for the final time as well. There is Jurny Simicic putting people laps down now, actually. We've got Pushka and Mercedes both one lap down, and Kostas Van Vukas not far from being a lap down also. There's Alex Siebel out in the top 10 again. Not one of those drivers who has been in the top 10 twice, by the way. Didn't score any points at Bahrain, of course, as a result of early trouble, although he came very close and put on a good show despite troubles. Here is Yannick Bock making his way past Dennis Jordan. Not even sure if Jordan has to pit again, actually. He's been on the mediums a lot today.
No, these guys put on the same lap.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, when Bock came in, Jordan pit as well. They're currently following and shadowing each other all day, although they actually flip-flopped in the middle stints. There was hard medium, then medium hard, but they did the same pit lap every time. And they are legitimately on the podium. Well, Bock is at this moment in time. Though, of course, Simicic owes us a pit stop, which he's doing now. So when this comes out, this is it to the end of the race.
Yeah, this is the race. Yeah, this is the race. Hard tyres at the moment for Jurny Simicic. That will turn from white to red as Jurny Simicic makes his pit stop. Through on your screen will go Manuel Biancalilla, but there's the race, there's the gap, and that is what you have to defend. Manuel Biancalilla with 3 seconds to cling on to for the German Grand Prix with 12 laps to go.
But the important point, look at the track map. Coming through turn 1 now, there's the 2 race clutches and the Super Venturi. Look at the amount of time that they still need to gain. 13 seconds if they want to win this race. They might be able to sneak a podium off Yannick Bock, but it might be too much for the race win today.
I think it's too much to try and grab a podium, to be honest. I think it's between Yannick Bock and Dennis Jordan for that podium place, and they look like they're going to fight it as well. Although they've got to sort of temper their fighting a little bit for later on, because if they do too much too soon, they will be caught by those 3 behind.
And of course McGorgy picked, I think, a lap too early for those soft compound tyres, so he might just run out of steam by the end of the race. Grankvist will be coming on those mediums. They'll be consistent to the end. But, we're seeing, is it going to work out? Is it going to not? And of course it's 2 versus 3 versus 4 up inside the top 5. And we've got all 3 compounds inside your top 3 coming into the final 11 laps of this race.
Yeah, that's the most remarkable statistic out of all of this. I think the fact that Owen McGorgy will drop back later on may not be a terrible thing for race clutch, because that will allow Jake Dennehan to get away without anyone drafting off him. Anyone being Jan Vankvist, who's likely to try and stick with him and try and beat him to 5th by the end of the race. But I think other than that, it's going to be disappointment for race clutch. Is it going to be disappointment for this man? What a show he's put on, and what a show we're going to see from him and Jurny Simicic. I don't think Biancalilla's going to get to the end of this race without a fight from Jurny Simicic.
Yeah, this is pretty cool with what we got on the screens here, and I think the problem for Biancalilla with holding on to this is that Simicic is on the soft compound tyres. If he catches him in the first 5-6 laps still of those soft tyre stint, I think he's going to have so much grip. If it was coming to the last couple, maybe, just maybe, Biancalilla would have enough, but I think the tyre differential is going to be too much for Simicic. However, he's still got to get it done and then hold on to the tyres by the end of this race. But either way, Biancalilla getting on the podium with a 2-stop. I mean, that is quite something considering the strategies that we've seen today.
Well, it's been 5 years since we visited the Hockenheim Ring in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. On that day, Jurny Simicic was less than a second away from victory at the hands of Martin Godsby on that occasion. Is it going to be history repeating itself, this time with Manuel Biancalilla on the right side of the results? Well, he's going to have a lot of defending to do to make that happen. 10 laps to go, including the one that we're on at the moment. Is it going to be straight one attempt and through here for Jurny Simicic as Manuel Biancalilla defends into the hairpin? What can he do? The speed overpowering Jurny Simicic into the lead, but he goes wide. Will Biancalilla be able to get the exit? Absolutely not. Those soft tyres, far too much. And the 4-time champion leads.
Certainly is, with the 3 hard compound strategy, but despite being the slowest compound, they seem to be the fastest in terms of the strategy, and he's got the lead with 10 laps to go, and he should be able to hold on to that. Biancalilla isn't going to come back, and neither is the Evo or the Ferrari in behind. So Simicic has got that one covered in terms of the top 4. It's just a look back at the race clutch, but no, they are so far behind. They've only gained Pit stops around 18, 19 seconds. They've only gained 6 or 7 seconds. With that, they need, it's a third of what they needed to gain.
Yeah, exactly. Nowhere near enough, I'm afraid, as 2 seconds already created between Simicic and Biancalula. That may well be the race with 9 laps to go here. Maybe the next question is, how far is Biancalula going to fall? Is he going to be off the podium maybe by the end of this? That would be slightly remarkable. But Jone Simicic is yet to be on the podium yet this season. 5th place at the Bahrain Grand Prix was his best showing so far. Neither of the showings, in fact, have really been Jone Simicic-esque, I would argue, in the 2024 World Championship. This is the first time we've really seen the champion on top form.
Yeah, it's a weird one, how this season's going. Our championship leader is down in P7. The 2 previous winners are P5 and 6. And then you've got Biancalilla also being ever consistent with Bock up inside your podium. And then Simicic, he's been up and down. Jordan's been up and down. It's so weird how the first 3 races have gone. And next we go to Singapore, which is such a tough street circuit with a slightly new layout this time as well. That's got loads of questions at it. What a start to the season we're having. Yeah,
to make it even weirder, by the way, to add to what you're saying, with the championship leader and both previous race winners down 5th, 6th and 7th positions respectively. But we've got in second place a seasoned debutant who's never won before. We've got Yannick Bock, who's also never won before, and Dennis Jordan, who has never finished inside the top 2 of the championship before, but he looks like he might be about to hold that place very soon. Jone Simicic starts today quite a few points behind, so you might be thinking, is it time for him to take the championship lead already? Well, no, not quite, but in such a topsy-turvy season, it might not be too long before we do. I think this will be the battle to really watch in the final 8 laps. Yannick Bock and Dennis Jordan are fairly evenly matched, it looks like, for the final step on the podium.
I am concerned about the gap in behind, though. It was half a second last lap, so that is very tight with getting there. And of course, once they get within that second, they get the draft. Within 0.7, they get the DRS. So I wouldn't count out Jake for having a last lap or 2-lap lunge for this podium. There's still a few questions in that regard. And also, as you say, is Biancalilla going to come into these clutches as well? We could see a big fight here inside your podium positions.
We very much could, as we still have 3 different tyre compounds inside the top 3. A race that really has been bubbling away and finally finishes with a flourish. Jone Simicic too quick, I think, though, for the rest of the field. Is Yannick Bock going to get to Manuel Biancalilla, I think, is the next question. Let's monitor the lap times here. Biancalilla with a 17.4, a 16.7 from Yannick Bock, so that's 3/4 of a second. He'll be there in 5 laps or so, which gives him a chance or 2, maybe, at second place.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough fight inside these last 3 or 4 laps or so. And it's actually a game now of who can keep their tyres the best to the end. Because, of course, you've got Biancalilla, who is doing such a long stint. He's got to be careful. Then you have the soft tyres chasing them down in behind, who need to be careful not to burn them up too much just in the catching. They still need to have enough tyres to do the overtaking. And then you've got the medium tyres in between, who need to have that balance of pushing to keep up with Biancalilla, but also you can, the mediums still have a little bit of fragility. You can slightly overheat the rear tyres, especially with all the exits around the slow corners on this track. So it's definitely a tough one at this track, and that's why we've seen the strategy being all over the place.
We really have. Wonder whether we're going to see a similar strategy all over the place, maybe at Singapore. First time we've been there for quite some time, and the first time we've been on that new layout, of course, as well, which we'll talk more about in a couple of weeks' time. That will be 14th of April if you want to come and join us again for another World Championship race. Still 6 laps to go of the German Grand Prix, and it looks like there's only going to be one winner from here. Simicic nearly 5 seconds ahead of the rest now. Manuel Biancalilla 2 seconds, though, ahead of Yannick Bock and Dennis Jordan. Another 0.6 of a second gained by those two over Biancalilla on this occasion, who looks set, by the way, to be the new championship leader at the end of today.
Don't speak too soon. You never know what is going to happen. Realistically, we've got 6 drivers here battling for second place. If you keep Grank in the background, though, he's just slightly off the back of the race clutch cars, and they're all closing in on each other. Of course, Simicic has gone 5-second lead. He really has dominated the strategy today, and just sort of 1 step above everyone already from the first opening 10 laps or so, where he re-overtook and got that lead back from Jake Dennehan in that first stint. But certainly since then, it's been all over the place. And I think for Dennis Jordan, it's a bit of a shame for him that they got Dennehan now 2.5 seconds back, because I think if they didn't have them chasing down, he would be going for this move a little bit more. But at least he needs to try and confirm himself in that P4 just by not fighting and sticking in behind.
Is there still something for Race Clutch here in this race? 5 laps to go. They're not that far away, but I think maybe a bit too far. Their strategy may be just falling them or befalling them today, because had they gone on to the 3-stop strategy, maybe they would be with the likes of Ewan Simoncic at the moment, especially the way that Jake Dennehan started the race. I think they would very much, it's one of those races for them where they would very much like to do it all over again, because it's not been the result that they wanted at all. With this amount of laps remaining and with a lack of fighting for 3rd place, which I don't think is an accident, I don't think Race Clutch are going to play any further part in the podium places today.
It's a weird one. When you obviously go back and look on reflection, obviously we haven't worked out who's actually going to finish in these positions yet, but would Race Clutch do anything different if they knew then what they know now? Because even if they could have done something slightly different and maybe got up into 2nd place, Yerne's still now 6 seconds up the road. He's probably going to win the race by 7 or 8 seconds by the end of it, with the speed that he's got over Bianca Lilla. So there's going to be a lot of seconds still left in this race that they could have closed down somewhere else. And is it purely just, should they have done the 3 instead of the 4? That's what they need to analyse, because if you want to obviously win the championship, you've got to be winning the races, and Jake still only has 2 wins to his name.
Exactly. So going to need a few more if he wants to be champion. Out of turn 2, 3 and 4 for the battle for 3rd place here in the race. Still not quite close enough to Manuel Biancalillo, who's starting to stem the rate of losses now. 3/10 of a second last time round, and he's been very consistently in the low 17s today. That's been his real upside from this strategy. Simoncic, though, has been a bit more consistent, a bit quicker as well. 1 minute 14.3, his fastest lap so far today. That's outrageous, by the way. I can't see anybody else even near that. I think he's got the fastest lap by over a second.
That's faster. That's faster than my qualifier lap in Pro.
Oh, no.
And that's, well, okay, fair enough. There's not much fuel in, but still, that is pretty remarkable stat, and just showing you the speed that he's had today. Oh, that's quite something. As we have had DNF come in, fortunately for Brabham eSports.
Oh dear, it wasn't their best day anyway, but Martin Mergley, I'm afraid, has had it a lot worse. Oh dear, and that's going to be talked about afterwards. He has he's not taking it any further part, we'll put it that way. It was Matthew Fletcher who he was with. Ruben Machete seems to be fairly innocuous in that one. Williams didn't actually go all the way around there. I mean, I think there must have been some previous there, because I can't imagine that is what annoyed Martin Mergley so much he quit the race.
And he'd already lost his front wing. So
right.
But that's weird, because nothing came up on my incident list about the front wing. But yes, interesting. Let's say that. I'm sure there might be something also a little bit further to that. Unfortunately, not able to get down the replay what happened before, but certainly a weird incident there, and that has put Ruben Macheda up into the points as well in that P15 position with that DNF. And even though he's in the pit lane now, he is far enough ahead of Philip Pushley that he should just about hold on to that final point.
Yeah, he certainly will. Well, yeah, we'll find out. 2 laps to go at the line for Simoncic. Has Manuel Biancalillo done enough here? He's so close to letting those behind him get DRS, and he might well have just let them now as Jake Dennehan really slides out the final corner. I think you were right about Owen McGorgie's tyres, by the way. He's now a 1.5 seconds away from his teammate, who's running away with 5th position. That looks like where he's going to finish in this one. The question for McGorgie is, can he finish ahead of Grankvist? The answer looks to be yes. Actually, the medium tyre pace for Grankvist not quite as strong as we were maybe expecting. The soft tyres may have been the way to go for him in the final stint of the race, despite the fact there were quite a few laps remaining when they made their final stop of the day. No DRS again for Yannick Bock. It's going to be one last go on the last lap.
Oh, actually, It is going to be for Dennis Jordan down the inside of his good friend Yannick Bock. They've got a lap car to the inside, side by side through the kink they go, and Bock just about manages to hold on to that position he's held for some time now. Jordan is now feeling okay. They're not going to be overtaken by Jake Dennehan in behind, and now this is the time to go for it with just one lap to go.
Well, I think that may well resign them to a battle for third place here. Dennis Jordan had to do it because he wants a podium position. However, it has meant that that's all they'll be fighting for here. His exit just not quite good enough off the hairpin. I think he came from quite a long way back. Maybe Bock wasn't quite expecting it, but such a tight line on the way in. He's had the lock on for so long that he was never going to get the exit there that he really needed. And I'm afraid that is going to be fourth place for Dennis Jordan for now. But there will be one more chance here as we go on to the final lap of the German Grand Prix. First time on the calendar for 3 years in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. And it's the Hockenheim ring that has produced the action today. Manuel Biancalurla, the instigator of a lot of it. Can he be rewarded with a second place finish here this afternoon? As Mitchy Hoyer, I'm afraid, is off at the first sector. Let's see what Yannick Bock has got for Manuel Biancalurla. Outside line of the hairpin here for the final time. It's going to be late on the brakes for Biancalurla, who shoves Bock wide. Well, that one might be talked about afterwards, but Bock seemingly drove off on his own there.
And we saw that, I think it was between these two in that first stint, an almost identical situation. Bock going on the left-hand side of the anti-cut that's on the outside, but that might be enough for Biancalurla to hold on to this second place. Where can you overtake? Maybe into Sachs?
Maybe, but it's probably all too little, too late now. Thought there was space for Yannick Bock on the outside there, but he didn't quite use it all and went to the left of that curb, as you say. Meanwhile, Jürgen Simontic comes round the final couple of corners to win the German Grand Prix in 2024. It was heartbreak and so close for him just a few years ago. Last time we were at this circuit, this time he puts it right and he wins in 2024 for the first time since the Japanese Grand Prix of last season. Biancalurla rewarded with a two-stop strategy with second place and the best four-stop strategy driver finishing in fifth. Race Clutch may have to admit they got it wrong today.
He certainly might do another decent result. Matt Williams, about 20 seconds off the race lead, will come in his first race of the season to finish in P10 with Brakshot Kalaz and Lalu in behind. Who's going to get the final point in the end? It looks like it is going to be Ruben Macheda, who has enough on Philip Pushki. He was up there inside the top 5 in that second stint, but unfortunately just falling back a little bit.
So that's going to be Optiminal in the points for the first time this season, although not too many of them, I'm afraid, just the 7 between the two of them on this occasion, but they will take that regardless. It's Jürgen Simontic who takes the win, though. Manuel Biancalurla and Yannick Bock join him on the podium. That's their second respective podiums each. They're in second and third, a reversal of 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Dennis Jordan couldn't quite get onto that podium. Dennehan was the first of those on the four-stop strategy ahead of Owen McGorgy and Jan Granqvist. Then it was Alex Siebel with another top 10. Mitchy Hoyer finished 9th despite that last lap problem. Optiminal with their first top 10 of the season in the form of Matthew Williams, who finishes there for them in 11th position. Here today it was Jonas Brakshot. Despite qualifying 8th, unfortunately, he dropped back again in the race. Sana Callas just behind him with Jukka-Pekka Lalu next. It was Giordano Valiano and Ruben Machedi to round out the point scorers. Philip Pushka was the last driver on the lead lap. Kostas Van Bukers and Stavros Mercedes were both one down, with Martin Mergley, Cosmo Prosciutto, George Zalagianis and Matthias Ster all retiring from the race. Well, there we have it. 67 laps of racing, and Jürgen Simontic, the winner at the end of it. He can join us now. Congratulations, Jürgen, on another win. It's your 30th in the World Championship, to go with your 30th pole position that you got earlier on in the day as well. But it wasn't quite a lights to flag pole position to victory story in the end. Tell us what you were thinking throughout that race about other people's strategies, because you seem to be going for the conventional 3-stop that everyone was expecting, but for example, Manuel went for the 2-stop. We saw 4 stops from the likes of Jake. What were you thinking throughout that race?
I was super confused with everybody's strategy, and I had no idea what's going on. I laughed. I didn't know what reaction to make of it. It was so confusing, but in the end, I figured out that my strategy is very good, so it's gonna be probably easy victory. And it was quite of a relief to see that I have not failed with prep, and yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned relief there, the overriding emotion. I mean, in what sort of does this do for your season momentum-wise? Because it's fair to say it wasn't a classic start to the season for you. No points scored at the Australian Grand Prix, for example. How does this affect the rest of your 2024 now?
I think I need like 4 or 5 more consecutive victories to regain the lead if the current leader is P2, I think, like that. So it's not easy position, but it's not too short of a season. Yeah, I don't know, like it was just bad quali performance from me last 2 races and the terrible mistake. But anyway, like a victory is a start, so let's keep it going. And speaking of victories, I wish you a happy Easter, and I guess have a lot of victories over everything bad going on to not just win on track but everywhere else. So yeah, happy Easter holidays, everyone.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Johnny, on the win, and thanks for chatting to us too.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Yanni Simicic there, the race winner this afternoon in the German Grand Prix. Manuel Biancalillo will be with us in a moment, but we'll go to third, first of all, for Yannick Bock, who is on the podium again for the second time in 2 races now for you. Congratulations on that, Yannick. Good to have you with us again. As I say, double podium for you and your third in the history of the World Championship. What were you thinking throughout that race as everyone different strategy was going on? You went for the conventional one again as well, and you had that battle for the podium towards the end. What are your thoughts at the end of that?
Yeah, I think I had a good strategy and good pace through the race, but I was a bit unlucky in like my position on track. I lost like the position to Manuel on the first stint, and then got a bit stuck behind his top speed, and yeah, and then I had like a bad second stint where I lost a lot of time in the beginning, and yeah, then I forgot to request the pit stop for the last one, and then I lost another 3 seconds. So it wasn't a good race for me, but the result is pretty okay for this.
Yeah, we did wonder what happened in the end there, but didn't seem to matter too much towards the end. You were here last season, of course, for your first ever full season in the World Championship. You were 8th place in the points on that occasion. You're currently doing very well, I've got to say, to start off a new season in 2024. How are you feeling about the rest of this now and the start that you've made?
Yeah, I'm very happy. We have a good team around us, and having good preparation for the races, and that pays off for me. And I'm like the car, and I'm good on the tires and on strategy and stuff, and I even can manage the qualifying. So yeah, it's working out for me very good, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I hope it continues for you into the rest of the season as well. Congratulations, Yannick, on another podium, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yannick Bock there, the 3rd place finisher today, ahead of Manuel Biancalillo, or behind, excuse me, Biancalillo, who now joins us. 2nd place for you today, Manuel. Congratulations on that. The only driver, to my knowledge, to go for a 2-stop strategy. What gave you that idea today?
Basically, we saw that during the practice it was possible, so we just pulled it out. We didn't know if it worked or not, because we even saw people pitting like for 4 pits. So yeah, at the end we were lucky, and that's it.
It was a interesting final couple of laps as well. Were you fearful with a couple of laps to go that you weren't even going to finish on the podium at all with Bock and Jordan catching you there?
I was trying to push a little bit because I had some tire spare, some spare tire left. Then also like there were some lapped cars, which was a little bit of a struggle, but yeah, it was fine at the end.
Well,
luckily the gap after the second pit was enough to keep them behind.
Yeah, exactly. And were you really hoping that you would keep Yerne behind for all that time, or were you quite...
No.
Did you realise?
Yeah, as soon as he pitted for soft, there was no chance to keep him behind.
Well, fair enough. It's still a great result for you. One of only a couple of drivers to score 2 podiums so far this season, and the only driver to be in the top 5 all season so far as well. Congratulations on that, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Manuel Bianca Lula there, second today in the German Grand Prix. A very interesting German Grand Prix, Cam Rodger alongside me. It was slow to start off with, not a lot going on, but then all of a sudden it was went from the very mundane to the very confusing, actually, and very exciting towards the end as well, as 3 different strategies converged to make a great finish.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried after how those first 10 laps went, because I knew what was coming. I hoped I knew what was coming as well. The 4-stop did surprise me. I was expecting an aggressive 3, but not a 4-stop. But it gave us some really good showing. So yeah, this car's working out nicely, and the championship is looking really great for the rest of the season.
It is indeed. Singapore coming up next. It's the first time in a very good while since we've been there, and we've never been to the new layout, so it's about time. The Formula SimRacing World Championship visited the Asian nation, and we will be there for round number 4. Make sure you join us again in a couple of weeks' time. The usual Academy and Pro lineups will be there as well, so feel free to tune in on the Formula SimRacing YouTube channel. We'll be back again for that. A big thanks to everyone who's been chatting along here tonight. It's been good to hear from you all and see that you're watching and enjoying another season of this great championship. We certainly have been as well. So join us again in a couple of weeks' time. For now, we'll bid our farewells. I've been Ewan Leary alongside Cam Rodger here once again for the German Grand Prix. And until we see you in a couple of weeks, it's goodbye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Home.
Who's going to break Lasix world title?
For Mike Gosby. Oh, he's done it. And
Look at these 2 go.
oh, he's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.